And good morning, everybody, and welcome to Summit Point Raceway for the third day of coverage of the 2024 edition of the Jefferson 500, presented by the Vintage Racer Group and Summit Point Motorsports Park. I'm Greg Ginsburg, along with Brian Donati. We've got Spencer Gaynor directing and producing here today, and we're going to have a series of special guests joining us here as well for day 3 of our coverage. Short day for us here, Brian. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Doing very well. We have 7 sprint races this morning for each of our 7 race groups. We've got our Formula cars. We're going to be starting things off with the Formula Ford Challenge Series. We've got our sedans and sports racers and sports cars. It's going to be another fun-filled morning of racing here at Summit Point Raceway. And so first group coming out here now is our Formula Ford Challenge Series, and I think this is a perfect time for us to introduce our guest this morning. We have joining us Denny Austin. Denny, longtime Formula Ford racer, as well as the chief instructor here at VRG. Good morning, Denny.
Well, good morning, guys. Just wonderful to be up here with you, and it is a terrific day with a terrific race group out there. I think it looks like the pace car is heading out right now.
Indeed. So Denny, and we'll talk. We brought you up here, well, not because Frank Delvecchio didn't do a good job yesterday, but
wow, well, you need a solid backup for Frank.
Yeah, exactly. We needed a professional.
Well, then here you guys can go ahead and take the headsets. Greg and I will step away.
Yeah,
right?
We'll just step away. But as you mentioned, we've got the pace car out on track right now. This beautiful Lotus Esprit V8 Turbo, actually twin turbo model. Pace car for the IndyCar series back in both the 1997 and 98 seasons. And one of the reasons they picked it is that it was the only pace car that could do the 150 mile per hour speed necessary to pace the IndyCar field around Michigan International Speedway. So they are now taking the group out for what is going to be the last of our Formula Ford Challenge Series races here on track right now. So we finished up yesterday with a great battle in Formula F. We had Jake King take the win in his Royale RP24, the Dominion Title Services car. That is the number 27 Club Ford. Steven Adams finishing in second in his Lola T540. Stefan Vapa, who also joined us in the chat quite a bit yesterday, Brian, as well, finishing in third. He was driving his Macon MR7 machine. And we have seen some amazing racing here this weekend across the 3 different classes that we have in the Formula Ford Challenge Series. We have our historic Formula Fords for the first generation cars, Denny.
Correct. Yes, the historic Fords, they are the original rounds of Formula Fords dating back to the late 60s. They're based on the old Formula 3 cars of the era, but they turned out to be much more reliable and economical to use a spec Ford 1600 engine with limited modifications. And, I guess it succeeded.
Yeah, exactly. And so then we have, and I think the majority of our field here this weekend are from the Club Fords, which is the second gen cars, which run from that same time period, around 72 up to 1980.
Early to mid 80s, there was the second generation, what we now call Club Ford, are cars that started using inboard suspension, springs and such like on the inboard rear brakes in many cases, and that is the bulk of the cars that we have in this group, and they're vintage cars, vintage drivers, vintage attitudes.
There you go. And then, of course, we have a smattering of current generation, third generation Formula Fords. As we've got the pace car on the pit lane now, Denny and Brian, they're on the front straight. Our starter and appears to be Mike Kelly again, giving the green flag, and we are racing here for day number 3 at Summit Point Raceway with the Jefferson 500, Brian, as our racers make it down to turn 1.
Tell you what, Scott Fairchild got a great start on that start headed down into turn 1. He's going to be driver's left. Looks like you're going to have Steven Adams. That's going to be the driver that's going to go ahead and propel in through turn 1 right there. Looks like they're going to be side by side coming through there.
All right, and as they come now out of turn 1, heading into turn number 3, field starting to get in line right now and jumping out to an early win. Is that Oseth or is that Fairchild?
I think that's Stephen Oseth in there is going to got the good start. So my mistake there. It wasn't Steven Adams. although he did get a pretty good start. That is Steve Osif in that machine.
Another long-time Formula V racer.
I was to say Formula V racer,
Exactly.
For years here in the Mid-Atlantic Road Races.
Multiple-time national champion.
That's right.
And great driver, and a really well-prepared car by Eric Langbine Racing.
Now, the difference between yesterday and today, obviously, is it's dry, right?
Yay.
These guys went out yesterday in nothing but rain. I mean, it was, early in the morning, it was raining when they went out. Even yesterday afternoon, they went right out after lunch. Again, the rain. So their only dry sessions, basically, is from Friday. So what you learned on Friday is really what you have. It's a little bit
And
cooler,
here they come.
a little bit overcast still, but Osip getting a great run out there.
Looks like Scott Fairchild managed to pull off a pass, putting him in the lead ahead of Oseth going into turn one.
And I think the yellow Lola there had moved up into second place. That's Wayne Nicolette in his T340 machine. And then Oseth in third, Fairchild falling back in the fourth in his Zinc, and then Jake King, yesterday's winner. He is now sitting back. He's in the orange number 27 machine, kind of mired back there in fourth position. So Denny, knowing that these racers, they had dry weather yesterday. Obviously, the track conditions are very different this morning. Still, obviously, very overcast and maybe with some humidity in the air. But what kind of changes would you be making to one of these cars to set it up more for dry weather conditions than for the wet?
Well, what just about everybody did on the grid yesterday, and we certainly did it on our car, was try to soften it up to make it weight transfer just a little bit better, put a little bit more weight, make them a little less snappy responsive, if you will, so you can accommodate the less grippy conditions. What I would have done for today is go back to my dry setup.
Okay. And set it up from there. And, again, it's actually about 60 degrees ambient air temperature, very humid air. But, yes, what is essentially a very green track, but definitely none of the puddles and none of the dampness here this morning as we complete lap number 2 with Fairchild. Oseth has gotten back around Wayne Nicolette's Lola to move the Merlin Mark 20 up into second position overall. She mentioned that Fairchild and Nicolette are, as well as Jake King, who just reset fast lap, are all in the Club Fords in those second generation cars. Steve Oseth, he is the first car in our historic Formula Fords, and we don't have another until we get to Stephen Vappa all the way back in 8th position.
Correct. Right. Just point of personal interest, as you may recall, I left rather hurriedly yesterday.
Yes, you did.
One of the guys that got caught out, or two of the guys that got caught out in the grease ball here that we had in the track yesterday was my son Leon in our Z10. He spun to the inside of turn 10. Kept it running, was getting ready to go back onto the track when another fellow, John Hearn, spun in exactly the same place in exactly the same way.
Yeah.
Poor John managed to smack Leon, tear up our front suspension. We were both out. But Leon is back out there right now in Bernard Bradpiece's Merlin.
Ah. Okay, yeah, I was just going to say, because we didn't think that he was in a Zinc right now, that he was in a Merlin. So when you have front suspension damage to one of these cars, I mean, obviously the newer machines, as far as how they're constructed, probably with fixed mounting points and newer materials, we'll say, for where those mounting points are. The Zincs, the Merlins, I assume they're probably steel tube frame.
Correct.
Cars.
They're all steel tube.
Okay, and so if you had something, if a pickup point was bent out of shape there from an impact, what would you normally end up doing there? Do you cut a piece of the frame out and weld something new in, or?
Fortunately, we don't have that problem. But yes, if you did have a pickup point get torn out or a bent piece of steel, you strip it down. You get it to somebody like Eric Langbine or any one of the number of the great shops in the area. Weld in new stuff, put it back together, and go racing again.
Gotcha.
In our case, all we had was some bent control arms and whatnot. Didn't have spares, but I can couple them together at my shop here in a week or so.
All right, and so we've got Blake Chesbro in the chat. He says good morning, and hey, Denny says long time. We'll be rejoining the group at Thompson and also at Shenley Park.
Well, that's fantastic, Chesbro. Good to hear from you, and looking forward to seeing you again.
Just one other quick thing of note, if you're looking at timing and scoring, that is actually not Frank Del Vecchio in that 13, because Frank is up here with us, standing behind the scenes. That is actually Jordan Mayer in that 13, right now currently sitting in 10th position. So it looks like we've got some, maybe the number 8 machine who is smoking there, maybe have some suspension components as well. So it could be that's what that is. Actually, that is for 1-2, which is I have Wayne Nicolette in the 12 machine there. So it looks like he may have some suspension problems.
All right. Well, we will continue to monitor that. Actually, Brian, I think the call was for the 1-2. Well, actually, they were looking for the 1-2-0, who's our leader, Scott Fairchild. But we will check that as it comes, and let's see if we can pick up. We've got some pretty nice racing going on right now. And what we might want to do is try to catch on to Dave Fairchild, who is currently running 5th overall in his number 2 yellow zinc, or gray and yellow zinc. He'll probably be right after this group here, and he's got a trail now of about 6 cars behind him. Actually, let's see if we can pick up.
That's Dave. Stefan pulling out to pass. And Chris Fahan also going 3 wide into turn 1. This should be fun.
Well, our leader was receiving the meatball flag. The 1-2-0 was having to move way over, so they went 3 wide because you had let's see, Steven Adams trying to make that pass as well and trying to get out of the way. So pretty good job by Scott Fairchild trying to get completely out of all of those ways so he can get down here and get on pit road. Kind of a little bit of a cluster there at the beginning of the front head of the field here with trying to get out of the way.
All right, so and you can see here lots of brake lockup coming down into turn number 5.
And I think what you're going to start seeing now when they come back onto the main straight is the field is going to be closing up. There's a good draft going on out there. There's good opportunity for cars to pick up.
Yeah, we do have a standing yellow down in turn 1.
So we
wait to hear that call.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happened there. Saw a little bit of smoke there. Just got word that the 120 car of Fairchild is bringing his car into the pits. And we'll get the number on that incident over at turn 1 in just a moment. But real quick, let me make a call to the grid for our next group, Brian. Attention in the paddock. First call to the grid for race group number 6, or for our sports racers, the Charlie Gibson Trophy. Please head to the grid. Race group 6, sports racers. Please start heading to the grid. All right, and it sounds like it's the 248 machine that has pulled off. That is Colby Trumbo in his Royale, Brian, that is off drivers. He's pulled into the grass drivers right on the inside of turns 1 and 2. Looks like he's going to be there probably till the end of the session.
Yep. Looks like I got a call earlier on of a little bit of a contact as well on the lap prior to that between a couple cars. Didn't really get all of the numbers, but it looks like there may have been some, so we'll have to see.
And I believe, and we just saw, we saw one of our other cameras, and we've had that issue. I think it's Gianni Nunez in his RP31 Royale, putting off quite a bit of smoke as he gets out of the throttle going down into turn 1. But let's watch. We've got a great fight going on here coming into turn 1. Now heading down into turn 1. Let's take a look at this battle.
So looks like we're getting a call across the radio just coming out of turn 3, heading up down near turn 4. The 77 of Storm Field.
Yes.
Looks like he went into the gravel trap. You can see it the next time Spencer shows it on the camera over here to the right. And it looks like he lost the front nose piece that's on there. So it looks like they've got some suspension damage that's going to be picked up over by turn 4 later on. So
Hey, and Denny, we've got Carl Stenquist in the chat. He says it's great hearing from you, and he's got a new car and will be ready for driver school next year.
Looking forward to seeing you, Carl. I hope all is well with you. Please shoot me an email, and we'll get caught up. Looking forward to seeing you again.
All right, so let's take a look and see how we're doing in the field here. Our overall leader right now, he's in one of our historic Formula Fords in a 1971 Merlin. That is, as you mentioned, multi-time Formula V national champion Steve Oseth. Here from the Washington, D.C. region. We've got Steven Adams in his Lola. He leads the club Fords. He's running second overall, and he just now crosses the line directly behind Steve Oseth, and they're side by side going down into turn number 1. And right behind them, we've got Wayne Nicolette. We've got Jake King as well. All four are top 4 drivers. And directly behind them, 3 wide now, going into turn 1, Joseph Griffin, Chris Bahan, and I believe we had Dave Fairchild in that group as well.
Tell you what, Greg, Steven Adams, complete front driver's lockup on the right front going down in turn 1, overdrove that. All 3 of them went by him, which would have been Steven Oseth, Wayne Nicolette, and I think Jake King got by him as well.
Powerful draft on the front straight here as we see multiple groups of cars closing up and setting up for passes. Another one getting ready to happen right here. As these 3 cars come by, one of them driven by Mike Buttrick, and one of our new graduates, Lee Grassley, in the blue and white golf-colored Royale.
Yeah, sorry, Greg. I was going to say another group that we've seen out here a lot really is dependent on the aero and on the drafting part of it. I mean, that's really, you almost have to have a partner to make that pass in certain situations. Mm-hmm. If not, it's like, being out on 95 when you try to pass that truck and just wind pocket just hits you.
And so that being said, and I think we talked with Frank a little bit about this yesterday, we know that obviously the latest generation Formula Fords, they're much more aerodynamic. They've had time in the wind tunnel. They probably do not punch as big a hole in the air for the cars behind them as the older machinery. Mm-hmm. Is there a dramatic difference in draftability between the first generation and the second generation cars?
They're fairly similar, surprisingly enough. I think the second generation may be a little easier to draft in some ways, where they pick up speed in the corners and so on because of the sort of the interim aero, but they're kind of still pretty good sized cars. But in many cases, a lot of those older cars, the first generation cars can be a little bit quicker in a straight line.
And that's what Frank was saying yesterday, that the advantage of those second generation cars, primarily because of the changes in suspension and what have you, they're much better in certainly in slower corners and maybe the high speed sweepers as well. Mm-hmm. Whereas those first generation cars much quicker.
As you can tell when you see folks like Stefan Vopper running so far up in the front and Steve Oseth running so far up front.
All right, so we've got our 3 leaders now coming across the start-finish line. This is Steve Adams, who's now moved into the lead in that blue and orange, that Gulf liveried Lola. Then we've got Steve Oseth and Wayne Nicolette. And along with Wayne, we've got Jake King as well. And everybody's really starting to close up. Chris Fahan, not all that much further back from them, nor is Joseph Griffin. It's not until you get to Stephen Voppa in 7th, Brian, that you have this really huge gap.
Yeah, and I'm hearing that we may be getting, this is the last lap. They're just now getting up out of turn 3 right now, and you've got pretty much a 6-car, 7-car battle. Really, it's going to determine who gets through the carousel much better, potentially on this last lap. As they head down into turn 5 right now, still Steven Adams leading, Steve Oseth, Wayne Nicolette, Jacob King. Now throw Chris Fahan in there, and then Joseph Griffin in that 66 machine right there. So again, whoever's going to get through the carousel and up through 8 and 9, Greg, that could potentially be your winner.
And Brian, we're going to continue to follow our leaders, but I'll tell you a little bit further back in the pack, we've had a great race, almost all race long. Don Baggett in his historic Merlin Mark 17, Matthew Barber in his Van Diemen, which is a Club Ford, Greg Sowers, Lee Oddie, as well as Alan Buttrick, all pretty much in a row here for the last couple laps. Our leaders are out of 10, coming towards the start-finish line, and taking the checkered flag and the win today It's going to be Steven Adams, Steve Oseth, just a half second behind. He's going to win historic Ford. Jake King, our winner in yesterday's feature race, best he can manage today is third. The number 27 Royale will finish there. Wayne Nicolette falls back to fourth in his club Ford. Then we've got Chris Fahan, Joseph Griffin sixth. And separating, Brian, our top 6 drivers, just 2.5 seconds. It is then Stephen Vappa, who will finish in 7th with Jordan Mayer in the number 13 machine. He finishes 8th. And then Sam Ryan, Leon Hodges, Austin. There you go.
Yeah.
Denny, Leon finished in 10th position. Ron Beard, Tim Hannon, Mark Ungaro, Ira Nesbitt rounding out the 14th. And Matt Barber will come in 15th.
Well, it was a great race. Very clean, it appeared. I know there were a couple of incidents, but they appear to have been relatively minor. No showstoppers. And when these guys put their heads together and get it together, they can put on one of the best shows in vintage
and they
racing.
have been wonderful all weekend long, Denny. We had an amazing race in the wet yesterday. They are in both morning and afternoon, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of these drivers may have been on Summit Point in the damp for the first time yesterday morning. They did pretty darn well in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was a great day, a weekend of racing for our Formula Fords. Real quick, Brian, before I make a call to the grid for our next group, I wanted to talk quickly about a wonderful photographer. He was here in your school this weekend, my understanding.
Yes.
Denny, that he raced in and took the school in one of the Spec Renaults. That is Bill Stoller from Bill Stoller Photography. And if you're here at the event this weekend and you want to get some amazing photos of your race car on track, check out Bill's website at Bill, B-I-L-L, Stoller, STOLER.com, or you can call him at 717-372-2279.
Bill Stoller, a terrific guy. He's been supporting the club for years and vice versa. We were happy to get him into the school. He confessed to me that he never dreamed that he'd actually get into one of these race cars. And, well, we were able to pull it all together and make it happen. And a lot of that was thanks to the folks at Old Speed Racing, Vic Tomini and John Dunnock over there with those pretty little yellow jewel box race cars of Sports Renaults. And it was a great outcome.
The question is, how much longer are we going to have him behind a lens here as opposed to behind a...
Well,
it sounded to Brian and I like he might want to come out for the turkey bowl and get behind the wheel and maybe not get behind the lens.
I wouldn't be surprised, maybe, but anyway, we think the world of Bill, and he's just been a great partner to us all.
Very, very cool. All right, so Denny, can you hang out? We know you've got you and Frank here. Are you going to hang out with us a little bit longer, or are you going to head down to the paddock?
I'll tell you what. Wait till I hand it over to my esteemed colleague.
Okay.
Who hasn't made it up here yet? Oh no.
Oh.
No. Let me turn it back over to Frank. I want to go down and say hi to my son and shake his hand a little bit.
All right. So thank you, everybody. Thank you to Denny Austin for joining us here today, and he's going to head down and talk to his son, get the feedback on his son's race. We'll have Frank Del Vecchio hopefully joining us for our next group. But before we take a quick break, we're going to make a final call to the grid for our next group. Attention in the paddock. Final call to the grid for race group number 6 for our sports racers. Please head to the grid. Your race starting in just a few moments. Race group number 6, please head to the grid. Your race is next. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back in a few minutes here from Summit Point Raceway and the 2024 Jefferson 500 presented by VRG. Welcome back, everybody, to Summit Point Motorsports Park for the 2024 Jefferson 500, presented by the Vintage Racer Group and Summit Point. We'd also like to thank the Washington, D.C. region of the SCCA for providing technical assistance on this weekend's broadcast. And Brian, we've got our next group heading out. This is our sports racers. We're going to see here a number of sports racers like Lolas, Tigas, and Swifts, and this race named after Charlie Gibson, a longtime vintage racer who owned Sasco Motorsports and used to run Formula Atlantics as well as a McLaren Can-Am car. This is the 20th year honoring Charlie, who passed away in 2004. And another group, Brian, where we have had some amazing racing this weekend.
I tell you what, we've had, you're not kidding, you know, between Henry Payne V, John Thompson, Robert Dusek, we saw early on Friday where we had the Lola and the Chevron there between Joe Blacker and Thomas Grudich. Doesn't look like they're going to come out and race again today. They did not race all day yesterday because of the weather. I would assume they're definitely not racing out here right now this morning. So I would venture to say you're going to see a pretty good race here up front in that number 13 and 14 machines of John Thompson and Henry Payne V.
Yeah, so these sports racers, primarily the majority of the machines on track are what were known as Sports 2000s or S2 cars for many, many years. Some of them then when the Sports Car Club of America disbanded that class, a lot of them had moved over to the CSR class, C Sports Racer class, and things have changed considerably in sports car racing in the SCCA in the last number of years, as you have stores and Elan chassis, you know, these totally carbon fiber bodies that really make up all of the prototypes now in SCCA club racing. We also have had this weekend some of our BSR cars starting from the rear of the field today, and he has been finishing in the top 3 all weekend, is Joey Beaujolais. He's in that beautiful silver 1967 Ginetta G12 coupe, pretty much one of the only non-sports racers out here. And that car has been fast all weekend. He's just decided to start from the rear of the field, as we now have our beautiful Lotus Esprit pace car on the pit lane, turning things over to our pole sitter and our starter, Mike Kelly. He likes what he sees, and the green flag is in the air for our second race of the morning.
Tell you what, as they go down into turn 1, you're going to see Henry Payne, Robert Dusek III. They're still side by side. Now it looks like Henry Payne V is going to pull out just a little bit, going to move over driver's left and head down into turn 1. It looks like they're almost going to be 3 wide. Somebody's going to have to give right there, and it looks like that's going to be the 116 of Samuel Payne. May have to back out of it a little bit. Tried to follow Henry down into turn 1, but had to get out of it. He's now going to drop back in behind Robert Dusek in that 23 machine.
All right, it's now almost the entire field goes and gets lined up. We already have a little bit of a breakaway, Brian, with our top 4 cars going and separating out just a little bit. Payne, Dusek, Payne, and Payne. There you go. Three of the family members there. So is Henry Payne in the 90 car? Is he Henry Payne the 4th? Is he Henry Payne the 3rd? Is he junior?
Well,
senior?
Henry Payne the 5th is in the 13.
Right.
Then you've got Henry Payne, which is in the 90.
Right. So I want to know if he's the 4th or if he's the 3rd or if he's
the original.
Yes.
That's what it says here on timing.
All right. So he's so.
Somebody will jump in here in the chat and tell us.
I can't imagine if he's the original. I can't imagine that he's got 4 generations after him. That would make him about 165 years old.
Well, you never know.
Well, regardless of what he is, he's sticking right with the front pack. He certainly is. As our top 4 cross the start-finish line, and then we've got our second pack. That is Matt Kane and his Taiga SC84, Josh Lewis and his Lola T598, Tom Kane, and then Joey Beaujolais has already moved up now in the 9th position. Should mention that we only had, I believe, 11 cars go out for this race. We were expecting somewhere, Brian, about twice that, about 22 cars.
Yeah, I remember yesterday we had the Gnerts out there running as well between Brian and Brent. They were out there, pretty good battle. Pretty much up front all day long yesterday with Henry Payne V and John Thompson.
Right.
Kind of a battle again. Treacherous conditions yesterday for this group. as well as what we just saw in our Club 4 and our Phil Hill Cup cars as well going out. So these guys, again, second really only dry session they've had since really Friday. So I'm sure that yesterday there was kind of a lot of changes going on back and forth, and now you got to go back to somewhat of a dry setup.
Indeed. So, Brian, as our leaders cross the start-finish line, we've got now our second group led by Matt Cain. He's in the number 52 car. Very interesting story about that the red Taiga SC84. So he purchased this car 3 years ago to allow him to continue running after he had a pretty not a tragic, but he had a pretty bad accident in the uphill S's at VIR. He was doing about 125 miles an hour and had a failure on his SC83 machine. They've gone and actually rebuilt that, and it's ready to go back out on track. But he also says that the 52 machine was purchased in the memory of his mother, who passed away from Alzheimer's disease 2 days after his crash. And so he felt a real big need to get back out on the track and go racing in his honor, and especially since his mother, along with his girlfriend and friends at the time, played a pretty big part in getting him into racing. They all chipped in the money for him to go to a 3-day Skip Barber school, and that was about 20 years ago, actually 21 years ago. That girlfriend has now been his wife for 20 years.
Well, there's nothing like a great present to get you involved in racing, to come in there and do it and stick it, and then of course when they do that, you have to marry them, right? I mean,
exactly. And there he is. That's Matt Cain coming across the start-finish line now to start lap number 4, and he's in a little pocket there, Brian, between our top 4 drivers, and then a pretty good battle behind with Joey Bojalad, who's now up to 8th. He got around Steve Conson, and then we've got David Bryant and Garrett Wilson behind them.
Yeah. It's starting to spread out here a little bit as they come out of turn 2 and head up into turn 3. You still got Henry Payne the 5th leading, Robert Dusek 2nd, Samuel Payne in the 116, and then you've got Henry Payne in the 90. And that's really almost 2.5 seconds between them. Between that top 3.
Attention in the paddock. Attention to the paddock. First call to the grid for race group number 5. For our production and specials. That's the Donohue Cup. Please head to the grid. Race group number 5. This is your first call to the grid. And a gentle reminder for our Group 2 drivers that you have a mandatory drivers meeting in the classroom this morning at 10:30 a.m. Race group number 2. I know there was an email sent out about this last night. There is a mandatory drivers meeting for race group number 2 at 10:30 a.m. this morning in the classroom. And it sounds, Brian, like we've got a car off, driver's right, coming out of turn 5.
Looks like that's going to be the 51 of Thomas Kane, or Tom Kane, in there just out. You can see when just right there to the left of the camera, of our turn 6 camera, kind of almost near our turn 6 station right there. You can see it just on your screen. Looks like he's trying to get it moving. He's moving a little bit slowly there, but it looks like he's going to get it back on track.
Yeah, and so actually that 51 car is the car that I was talking about just a few moments ago that had that incident a number of years ago, about 5 years ago, at Virginia International Raceway.
Was that Tom or Matt Kane?
Well, I think that's Thomas Kane in the 51 car.
Right.
Tom is in the 52, which is the newer purchase.
Okay. So many Kanes, so many Pains in this group.
At least they all rhyme, Brian.
That's right. I know. I'm ready. I'm a poet and didn't even know it.
There we go.
Had to throw that one in there.
No, you didn't.
Tell you what, looking down at our camera here, you can see going down into turn 1 again. Henry Payne V still leading over Robert Dusek, but Robert Dusek, he's not going away. He's right there along with the 116 of Samuel Payne. So those 3 cars, we've seen that pretty much, on Friday with all of them together as well in the dry. Yesterday in the wet, in the damp, you kind of had some, back and forth between them. And right now, all three of them. It looks like now as they go down into turn 5, it looks like you're going to get a battle between Robert Dusek and Henry Payne V. They were side by side going through 5. Looks like Henry's going to go ahead and get the better line going through there, going through the carousel. We'll see how long Robert Dusek wants to sit in behind him because he definitely had a run going down the chute out of turn 4, but Henry is able to get a great run off turn 5.
All right, so we just talked a moment ago about Tom Kane in the 51 machine going off at turn 5. He's come down and reported on the pit lane. He is now just rejoining the action right as our leaders are coming across the start-finish line. That was the 51 car, the red 51 to the inside. Henry Payne, Robert Dusek, Sam Payne, your top 3. And then Henry Payne, he's about 10 car lengths back from there, Brian.
Actually, he's just going to jump back in. He's going to jump right in front of Henry Payne coming through turns 1. Now Henry's going to have to fight on the outside or on the inside there, try to get by Tom Kane. But yeah, come down, stay far driver's right all the way through. When the front 3 leaders went by, he tried to tuck back in, but didn't realize there was another car there. Had to stay in the middle of the racetrack. Good smart move there to stay out of the way. Still got a standing yellow now in turn 5. You can see on your camera when we get to the next camera, we've got a car just off of driver's right. You can see it right there coming out of turn 6. Can't see the number. We'll listen to get a call. Looks like a crimson car, but he's standing right there. We're getting a call now. Now he's starting to move. That's actually maybe the 52.
The 52 car, exactly. Yeah, indeed. That's the 52 of Matt Kane there. So I don't know, Brian. Maybe they're looking to run together because we now have Matt Kane and Tom Kane running. Technically 10th and 11th. I think we're going to see Tom drop another position here. Or probably see Matt drop another position.
Well, he has to report down on pit road. Right. So if he's okay to continue, he'll do it. We got one car on pit road now getting ready to make the right-hand turn there. Can't see the number. We'll get that number here in a minute. It's one of the blue and white.
I believe that's. I'm fairly.
That may be Garrett
Wilson, I think, maybe? In the 60 car.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 60 car, one of the later S2000s, a Swift DB2.
Right. So we'll be waiting. As we talked about Matt Kane, he's going to have to report down to pit road. Once he reports, then he should be able to.
All right, and Brian, we've got a local caution now at turn 8, and it's just in our camera view there. And that's the 52 machine.
And he hasn't reported yet because he hasn't gotten there yet.
Yeah, and it looks like he is dead stick once again.
No, he's moving again.
Okay.
So.
Wonder if he's using the starter to get that thing that thing moving.
It's going to be hard to get it up that hill, and it's not in a very good position right there, staying on the racetrack. So,
yeah. I mean, luckily he's over driver's right, the typical exit point for that corner. It's an increasing radius corner, and the drivers will normally finish up all the way driver's left. And you can see there quite a bit of distance. He's probably right now in about the best place he can be. So race control is giving them a couple more moments here to try and get that car moving before they decide to take any more drastic action. They are covering that corner with a local caution, which of course means no passing, and the drivers with the standing yellow flag, they're supposed to waving.
Looks like he's moving a little bit now, so he's hopefully going to be able to get up the hill.
And we just had a car go off at turn 5 and take the cut through. It's out of our view already. It looks like he's taking the turn 5-7 express, where you cut straight through the entire infield. And I think he's rejoined. It's the car coming through turn 8 right now. And that was the 81 machine. Is it 81?
It may be 18.
18 of David Bryant. The Shannon. Well, actually, no. Bryant is in his car. His car is red.
They may be talking about the 812.
Yes,
which would be Josh Lewis.
Exactly. Yes, the gray Lola. Exactly. All right. And Brian, we are going to a full course caution here at the racetrack in order to get that Tiga off the track, the 52 machine, which is dead stick coming out of turn 8. And we'll see. What we have seen in most cases this weekend is when they go to full course caution, they usually then very quickly, and this is to gather the field up, make sure no cars pass. But we'll see if they then have the drivers pit in or not. As we do have a series of cars they have come around through turn 10, and they do see the emergency vehicles on track and deploying. And there you go. There's the command the black flag, and so our drivers, they will. And these are our leaders coming by us here on the front straight, Brian. Our racers will be heading down the pit lane the next time they come towards the pit-in areas. We've got about 4 minutes left on the clock. Let me make another call to the grid for the next group, Brian. Attention in the paddock, attention in the paddock. Second call to the grid for Donohue Cup racers. Race group number 5, please head to the grid. Race group number 5, Donohue Cup racers, please head to the grid. Your race is next. All right, so Brian, why don't we take a look at the order here? As, of course, things, when they have a black flag, get rolled back to the last complete lap. But it looks as though it will be Henry Payne, the 5th, as your, I will call him your winner here in S2 in his Lola T90. Robert Dusek in his Duran, 2nd. Sam Payne, 3rd in a Lola T90. Henry Payne, and that's the original, right? The original is kind of like new Coke and old Coke and original Coke.
Exactly.
All right, Henry Payne in his 1989 Lola T90. He's going to finish 4th. Joey Bogelot, who started off at the back of the field, he works his Jannetta Coupe, the 1967 Jannetta G12, up in the 5th. Steve Conson, I'm sure he's upset that this black flag came out. He ran his very fastest lap on the final lap, Brian. Steve Conson will finish in 6th. David Bryant, 7th, Josh Lewis, 8th, then Garrett Wilson, Tom Kane, and of course Matt Kane. And there you go, officially the end of the race, Brian, as the start stand is going to display the checkered flag. Take our word for it, even though they haven't done it yet, they're going to do it. All right, so Brian, let's go and take another quick break here. We'll be back in just a few moments as they go to try and retrieve Mr. Kane's 1984 Tiga, and coming up next will be our production and special race cars in this race named after Captain Nice, Mark Donohue. You're watching the Jefferson 500 presented by the Vintage Racer Group and Summit Point Motorsports Park, and we'll be right back. And welcome back, everybody, to Summit Point Motorsports Park and the 2024 edition of the Jefferson 500, presented by VRG with Summit Point Motorsports Park. And Brian, it's our third race of the morning. And just a reminder, everybody, we are only going to be broadcasting the sprint races here this morning. And should be wrapping up our coverage probably around 12 noon Eastern time. Heading out on track right now is the race named after Captain Nice, Mark Donohue, SCCA national champion, first behind the wheel of an Elva Courier. We're probably going to see some of those Elva Couriers out here today. Also, GT40 pilot, and of course, most well known for his time with Roger Penske and running in NASCAR. Well, he took a win at NASCAR at Riverside. Also running in TransAM, both in Camaros and then also in AMC Javelins, and then finally going and helping develop the Can-Am versions of the Porsche 917 for Roger Penske, and also took one of those 917s to the world closed course speed record at Talladega Speedway, 221.12 miles an hour in what must have been, Brian, one of the most hairiest rides ever. I would imagine everybody's always talked about how the 917s were just an absolute handful with a ton of lift in the front, but blindingly fast. And Donohue was inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame 1990, SCCA Hall of Fame in 2006. And we're going to see out here, again, we talked a number of Elva Couriers, Lotus 7s fill this group. We also have a couple of Ginettas, and we'll see, we had a couple of Formula Juniors out, both the Lotus FJ18 that Vignesh Ramanathan was racing, and then we also had another one of our Formula Juniors on track. We'll see if they make it out here. And here's a machine that I'm hoping came out, Brian. We hadn't seen it all weekend. Sam Finkel's 63 Morgan 4x4, and I know it's called a 4x4, but a +4 essentially. By the way, the other Formula Junior was an Elva 200. Ralph Sullivan was racing that yesterday,
and had some problems. Had pretty much mechanical problems all weekend with it. Had it on Friday, and then had it obviously yesterday in the rain. So we'll see. In this group yesterday, Chris D'Amico pretty much dominated this race in the rain. Consistently in both sessions.
In a Lotus Super 7. Yep. All right, pace car is on the pit lane. Green flag is in the air and jumping out to an early lead, Brian. Surprise, surprise, your pole sitter, Chris D'Amico, in his 61 Lotus 7. And then we got Mark Gobble in his Elva Courier, the 59 Courier, that light blue and white machine, second car, although I think he's now dropped back in the third behind Jeff Topplese's Lotus Super 7.
He actually got gobbled up.
Yes, he did. Don't be a turkey.
Right, we saw a great battle yesterday, if you remember, between Jeff Taplesee and Kenny Williamson in this. That was pretty much for second overall in this group yesterday in the rain, both in the morning and in the afternoon. More towards the afternoon because it had started to dry up a little bit by the time they had gotten out there. But Chris D'Amico pretty much dominating this race yesterday afternoon. But the great race between Taplesey and Williamson.
Yeah, indeed. Here is the field now on the opening lap, heading down into the carousel now for the very first time. And I just love watching these cars come under braking down into turn 5, Brian. You've got cold tires, you got cold brakes. You're trying to figure out what is the limit, and we see a little bit of brake smoke up in the air here as these tires scrabbling for grip here. We'll probably see that go away as this race goes on, but we've already got a bit of a breakaway here at the front of the field. We've got D'Amico, who's now opened up almost a 15 car length advantage now over Taplesey and Gobble. Taplesey in the Lotus Super 7. And actually, I'm sorry, that wasn't Gobble. That's Kenny Williamson in his Elva, who moves up into third. Whereas we got Stefan Wiesen in his Elva now running in fourth. Gobble dropping back into fifth. With the Ginetta of Dennis D'Antonio running in sixth, oddly enough, in the number 6 car.
Tell you what, when we go to our camera here coming out of turn 2, looking up turn 3, you're going to see Kenny Williamson's going to make that pass over Jeff Taplesey in that number 84 Lotus Super 7. Kenny Williamson got down into turn 1 brilliantly, side by side, was able to make that stick early on. It looks like we do have a car sitting
in the gravel
down in the gravel. That's one of the Lotuses.
No, that is not one of the Lotuses, Brian. I feel horrible because that is the Morgan sitting in the gravel trap there at turn 1. Yeah, that is Samuel Finkel in the 159 machine. He has exited the vehicle.
No, he's still in it, but it's his left rear tire is buried. You can see it trying to spin, trying to do it. So hard on the brakes down in there. Ended up going. He's not getting out of that until he gets pulled out of that.
Yeah.
So
I thought that was the back of an aluminum seat, but you're right. He is still in the car there, and and we are going to a full course caution, Brian, here with 1 lap complete. Working lap number 2, they're going to go and try and get that Morgan out. It would have been so much easier, Brian, for him if he only had 3 wheels. Obviously, Morgan for years known for their 3-wheelers, and of course the plus 4, the 4x4s, the plus 4s, all the 4-wheel machines. And I always I look fondly at these Morgans, except for the plus 8, which is the most modern day Morgan that it looked like it was cross-eyed. There, and we are doing a black flag, so we will be bringing all of the cars down the pit lane here. But somebody you and I know, Brian, very big in the Morgans, and that's Dr. Rich Fohl.
Yeah.
Had been running for years in F Production, in Sports Car Club of America racing, and he is a part of the Morgan Club. He has made a number of pilgrimages to the United Kingdom to meet with the staff of Morgan and tour their factories. And if you get into what you think is going to be a 5-minute conversation, it turns out to be a 5-hour conversation.
Yeah, I was going to say
about Morgan.
5 minutes goes to 5 hours.
Exactly, but he's very, very passionate about the mark, as we just see there coming down the little access road on the side to try and retrieve that Morgan. If we take a look here, Chris D'Amico, your leader in his Lotus 7, and he is leading the CPV class. Kenny Williamson in his Elva Courier, the number 27 machine, he moves up in the second, and with a 133.881, running about 4 seconds off of D'Amico's times. Jeff Taplesey in his Lotus Super 7, third. Stefan Wiesen in an Elva Courier, fourth. Chris D'Antonio in his EPV Ginetta G4, fifth. Tom Kurtz in his Ginetta G12 is sixth, and that's the 101 machine. And then we've got the Courier of Drew Cullen, John Studier's Triumph TR3B, William Demarest in his Falcon, the competition the V competition Falcon, and a beautiful car. That is the number 47 British Racing Green top. And then we've got Rob Brownlee Tommaso in his MGA, the gray MGA. I believe he may be our sole driver in FP. Oh, no, he's not our sole driver in FPV because, well, Sam Finkel is also in that class.
Looks like we've got
Attention in the paddock. Attention in the paddock. First call to the grid for race group number 3. That's race group number 4. Race group 4. That's the Lola Cup for our small bore drivers with 1.3 liters or less and Formula V. Race group number 4. Lola Cup drivers, please head to the grid. Also, reminder for our Group 2 drivers that you will be having a mandatory drivers meeting starting in about 20 minutes in the classroom. Race Group number 2 drivers, you have a mandatory meeting in the classroom. Starts in 20 minutes. All right, so we are under black flag conditions here as we were working to get that beautiful Morgan freed from the gravel trap, and it now appears that Sam Finkel, he is free as a bird. Be free. He's coming down into turn 3 now. He will rejoin the rest of the field. He'll rejoin the rest of the field there on the pit lane, and they will be released shortly. And this is probably a good opportunity. I would assume, obviously, he's going to have to self-report, which is good because everybody else is on the pit lane already anyhow.
He's not going to lose anything.
Yeah, he may not. He lost a lap, but he may not lose any more than that.
Right.
And this also gives him a little bit of opportunity. Get some heat in the tires and get some heat in the brake linings, which he probably didn't have when he went down on the braking in the 1.
Yeah, good point. I mean, and then you've got Rescue 1 that's going to come back around, so that's going to give him some time to get in here, get the report, and then get in the back of the line if that car is still able to get back out there, make sure there's no damage or anything to underneath to make sure everything's going to work. But yeah, then, when we go back out, we're going to go back out for 1 lap and then restart. So.
All right, so not only do we have Sam Finkel in his Morgan heading back around to rejoin the field, we also have our emergency services team that we have to wait on. They are coming through the carousel now.
Bill practicing his laps.
Yeah, our good friend Bill Smith there behind the wheel of his truck.
He missed the apex on that turn.
Yeah, I hope he doesn't drive his race cars the way he drives his truck around here.
Let's see if he hits it going through 9.
I mean, we know he has an old NASCAR truck that he races here at Summit Point. Yeah. I'm guessing, but I'm not so confident that the handle's any better than that big Ford F-150.
As you and I are drivers instructors right here, I'd be writing him up because he totally missed exit out as well. So.
What you're saying is he could have been on the pit lane about 2.5 seconds faster?
Yeah, right, exactly. We'd be back going green cars on track if he'd have hit that apex.
All right, so we've got Bill Smith at his F-150 back on the pit lane, and the moment he hit the pit lane, Brian, they released our field back onto the straight, and we are under a full course caution for this lap, and we'll be going back to green flag racing the next time by.
Not sure anybody told our leader because he took off pit road like.
Well, he'll see it eventually.
Yeah.
You can see the full court. You can see the double yellow hanging from the starter stand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the call from race control is they don't think the leader is pacing the field, Brian. So
no, he's trying to get away. He's trying to. He wants to get away from Kenny Williamson. That's what he's trying to do.
We better watch out. We might have another car in the gravel trap on the outlap here if we're not careful.
He's got a. This is not a. He's doing a. Is that a quasi pace lap? I guess maybe.
Apparently so.
He's quasi pacing the field. That's my new word for the day. Quasi. I talk about it in my work all day long. It's a quasi math or quasi automated. So.
All right, and now Brian rejoining the field is going to be is going to be Sam Finkel in his Morgan as he just now heads out off the pit lane and onto the straight there. All right, so our pulse, or our leader, Chris Domingo, started to bring the field up through turn 8. Spencer, there you go. There's the front of the field, and you can see typically you still want to have the field fairly packed up. And, as we said, it looked like Domingo carrying a pretty good pace now, coming out of turn 10 and onto the front straight. We're going to give him a green flag, though, and we're going to go back to racing here, Brian. As Williamson, Taplesy, and Wiesen, as well as Tom Kurtz there. Tom Kurtz is a little bit further back. They all try to catch up. But Wiesen is in that silver coupe.
Tell you what, Taplesy made a move on Williamson going down in there. Pulled off driver's right, made that stick. We'll see whether or not it's going to hold coming out of turn 2. But I tell you what,
he gets outmotored, Brian.
Yeah, he got outmotored by Kenny Williamson there. So kind of quick, short-lived make that pass. So it looks like we've got. Trying to listen here.
All right, what they're saying, Brian, is that Domingo may be dragging something underneath the car.
Yeah. We'll see. Additional calls coming in now.
Yeah, it sounds like the exhaust canisters bouncing around underneath the car now. So
and that is our leader, by the way.
Yes,
that
indeed.
is Chris D'Amico. That's There we go. So our leader is going to get put on the number board here. He's going to have to come in and get that checked out. He's just now coming through.
That'll teach him to leave the grid like a bat out of hell. Right?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. That's would have paced the field. It probably wouldn't have come off so quick.
That's right. He ran faster than the equipment would allow. So that'll be happen. A little bit further back in the field, Brian. Been watching a neat little fight unfold here as we've got our the Formula Junior Ralph Solomon. He did bring that car out today, and then also the Giulietta Sprint, the Alpha of Ed Metalman. They're going 13th and 14th, the two little red machines here, and in very close proximity. A little bit further back in the pack there, we just saw coming through turn 3. That was. I believe that was one of our Janettas.
I tell you, one of the groups I've been watching here, as we're waiting on them to give Chris D'Amico that meatball flag is, we see this a lot, especially in our our regional races here, and that is within our bracket racing. You see some of the spec racers, coming through, and you've got, they're just now into turn 5. So we'll pick them up kind of coming out of turn 6 if we can here.
Well, we can here. I just want to track these two racers, Brian, in two very different cars. Here we've got the Elva Formula Junior of Ralph Solomon. Then we've got John Stoidehar in his Triumph TR3B. And the Formula Junior, quite a bit more engine than that Triumph does, but good little fight going on between those two drivers heading there through the carousel and out through turn 8. Let's jump back over and see if we can pick up that battle that you were talking about, Brian, because I think they're coming out of 10 right now.
The two Renaults and the Miata, right? We see that a lot in our bracket racing where you see Miatas and spec racers. Kind of the same thing. These three have been kind of battling, coming across start-finish line now the entire event.
Yes.
Not only
all 3 days.
All 3 days, right?
In the wet, in the dry,
right,
doesn't matter.
Exactly. So, that's Bob Anderson. That's I'm not going to say his nickname.
Yeah, don't say it. In the 63 machine, then Morgan Malone in the 69, and then
Tom
just
Levy,
ahead of him.
in that Miata. No, fantastic racing between those three. But we see it every time we're here, especially when we run the bracket racing. Those that type of racing happens over and over and over again.
So Brian, I wonder what Anderson and Malone are thinking when they see Tom Levy come up, because I don't know if you've noticed. Never mind the 360 camera that he's got on the top of the Miata, but he's got big shark's teeth.
Well,
or I guess shark's teeth on the grill of that Miata, and it's I don't know, it's maybe scary, but we should mention there with Chris Domingo, he's getting that meatball black flag. That's going to move eventually. Kenny Williamson up to the lead in the number 27, the white Elva Courier. Jeff Taplesey in his Lotus 7 now right on his tail as they came through turn 1. And then Stefan Wiesen. We'll go back to that battle here now, Brian, as they're coming out of turn 2, heading to turn 3.
Yeah, and that will be the battle for the lead once that is overtaken. Once that meatball flag is given to Chris Domingo, if they end up doing it, it could be that they may have waived that and pulled that back. I'm not sure because he hasn't come in yet. So I do know last time by they had missed it. So
well, Brian, he didn't see the double yellow flags when he left the grid.
Yeah, well, so.
It happens.
It is a little dark out there, so you never know. But go back to the when we go back to the Renault and the Miata, you ask the question, what do you think they're looking at? And it's probably thinking like, why is Rescue 1 out here racing with us? That's kind of what they're probably thinking because they sit lower,
That's right.
than that Miata. And we do have a standing yellow in turn 1. There, I haven't heard the call yet. We'll have to see what that is. I don't see anything.
We don't see anything around
here.
the corner. Well, we're going to have a call coming in right now. Oh, well, Brian, it may not matter much because we have got word that Domingo now is working his last lap. I'm sure he's probably going to get a little talking to at the end of this session. Domingo now coming out of turn 2, heading to turn 3. And
we just talked about Tom Levy, and then there it was. The shark bit him.
So what do the Spec Renault drivers think when they see the number 3? How did he get in the gravel trap? No, he's not in the gravel trap, but he is off track over at turn 1. But we have gotten word that Domingo in that number 11 Lotus 7, he is working his last lap. Brian, real quick, Spencer, if we can check coming down into turn 1 real quick. I just want to pick this up real quick. Great little fight. Drew Cullen in his Elva Courier, British Racing Green Machine, William Demarest in the number 47 Falcon. They're coming through turn 2 right now, and they're going to be coming up to us. And pretty much side by side for the last 2 laps. But let's jump back to our leader. Going to be coming out of turn 10. That is Chris Domingo now, and he's right alongside one of our Formula Juniors as he gets by Ramanathan here and comes down onto the front straight and taking the checkered flag, Chris Domingo. And we had right with him there. Actually, it wasn't Domingo. It wasn't Ramanathan. It was Ralph Solomon. In the Elva Formula Junior. Coming across the line, second will be Kenny Williamson, his Elva Courier. Jeff Taplesey just not able to outmotor him. Stefan Wiesen will finish in 4th. And I think we've got now coming out of, he's coming out of 10 now. Let's see, that's the number 19 machine coming across the line. That's Ed Metalman. He'll finish 15th. And then I believe we had our Ginetta, one of our Ginettas, that was Tom Kurtz, just now come across the line. He will finish 5th in the 101 car. That's the 67 Ginetta G12. And it was listed as British Racing as metallic green. It looked more burgundy to me. Then AJ Ferragonio, then William Demarest, 7th, Rob Brownlee Tommaso in his MGA. 8th, AJ Ferragonio in his Spec Racer Ford. Yeah. And that's not one of the Spec Renaults. That's a Ford machine. Yep. He will finish 9th. And in a Spec Renault, Bob Anderson will round out the top 10. And I don't know how this happened, Brian, but John Stoidehar in his Triumph TR3 or TR3B somehow got himself right between Bob Anderson and Morgan Malone. So they didn't finish in lockstep like they have the last 2 days. All right, let me make a final call to the grid, Brian, for our next group. Attention in the paddock. Final call to the grid for race group number 4, Lola Cup drivers for small bore, 1.3 liters and less, and for Formula V. Race group number 4, Lola Cup drivers, please head to the grid. And again, a reminder for our group 2 drivers, you have a drivers meeting in the classroom starting in about 7 minutes. Race group number 2, your driver's meeting, starting in the classroom in just a few moments. Please start heading there now. All right, Brian, let's take another quick break. We'll be back in just a few moments with more action here from Summit Point Raceway and the 2024 edition of the Jefferson 500. We'll be right back. and welcome back, everybody, to where are we? I was about to say welcome back to Virginia International Raceway. We're at Summit Point Motorsports Park. Sorry, Kathleen Wazerbeck. We're at Summit Point Motorsports Park. It is the 2024 Jefferson 500 presented by VRG and Summit Point. And you'd think, Brian, after 3 days, I remember where the heck we are. All right, heading out on track now. It is the Lola Cup, and this is for this race here is for our small bore cars, 1.3 liters of displacement and less. We also have seen our Formula Vs and vintage Formula Vs in this race group as well. Of course, the Formula Vs all based off of pre-1963 Volkswagen Beetle, so I think 1300cc or 1200cc air-cooled, horizontally opposed motors, and air-cooled motors at that, and our drivers out on track. Once again, we've got a plethora there, Brian. I'm going to use another word.
There it is. See?
Of our smaller, our little British cars. We've got Austin Healey Sprites, Bug-Eye Sprites, and then more like the Spridgets. We've got MG Midgets, of course, same car. We've got, in addition to that, some Turners. We've got a Caldwell D13. We've also got all of these Formula V. Actually, the Caldwell is a Formula V. We've got many different Formula Vs here. The Auto Dynamics cars. We've got the Zincs, quite a number of Zincs. Of course, Doug Zink, part of the Zink family here, and great to have him on track representing the handiwork of his family. And let's also take a look a couple Mini Coopers as well. And on the pace lap right now, heading down through the carousel, Brian. During yesterday's race here in this group, what we saw is David Gusak take the win. Gusak was in his 63 Triumph Spitfire. We saw Andrew Moore finish in second, and in his Austin Healey Sprite, Tom Brown had a great run. Didn't have a good start, Brian, but he worked his way back up into third in his Spitfire with Eric Haynes finishing just off the podium.
Yeah, the afternoon session here in this group was somewhat dry, right? They had a great afternoon session, so able to work through some of that. And then, as our leaders got towards the end of their race, they had to really battle to get through some traffic there. So it became a pretty good race here, waiting for the green flag to come out. And there is the green flag now. So we are racing. So 88 there. David Gusak again, Greg, jumping out to the front. Then you've got Andrew Moore in the 79, Thomas Brown in the 1. They're now side by side as Gusak opens up by about 2.5 car lengths as they start to head down into turn 1. Tell you what, he's going to go center of the track, then veer off just a little bit, trying to arc that in there. And what that's actually going to do, that's actually going to help Thomas Brown get by Andrew Moore. But then, coming out of turn number 2 and headed up, and then you're going to throw in the 51 there.
Yeah, and Brian, I was going to say, yesterday, somebody said, how come you didn't mention Jesse Darrow through our entire feature race? Well, now we're going to tell you, Jesse Darrow, he moves up to 4th, Brian. Yeah. And he's in the white with green and yellow Triumph Spitfire.
We're getting one of whoever it is that's got the 360 camera that's right. Been doing it back and forth with all of the
and I think
video group that is now dragging. Right. You may not want to use that video.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think that's going to be Peter Ustavinis, if I remember correctly, because I think he had it on the car yesterday.
And we've got one. It looked like that may have been Thomas Brown, just left out of the camera there, out of turn 6. Spencer picked that up right at the very end. We'll have to see as they come across the start-finish line, but I do believe that was Thomas Brown in that number 1 machine. And as we look at him coming across the start-finish line, yes, Thomas Brown nowhere to be found in our top 4 or 5 as he was the last time by.
All right, so we have, and I'm trying to pick up which Mini Cooper it is. We've got the Mini Coopers splitting. Oh, actually, it was I think you said it was a midget, not a Mini Cooper, with the camera hanging down. But neat little battle here between Mac McCormick in his Mini Cooper, and then we've got Alex Schaefer in his Mini Cooper. And then we've got the battle at Formula V directly behind him as we're going to a full course caution now, Brian.
Yeah, it looks like the Thomas Brown right outside of turn 6 there, almost into turn 7, just couldn't get out. So that is going to be sitting there. So we're going to go to a double yellow here because we need to get that car moved. He's not in a safe spot. He's right outside of our camera view.
Yeah, just to the left of the next camera that we're going to bring up over here, just past the little blue room there. And so although we gave a full course caution, we are now going to black flag the entire group, which means we're going to bring the entire field down the pit lane, Brian, so that we can deploy some of our emergency services team to go and retrieve that machine.
Oh, we got one here that's
going
to miss it.
We're going to retrieve almost all of them.
That is actually our leader here.
That's the 88 car of David Gusak. So congratulations, David. You're going to be a lap up on the entire field. That is so now we've seen, Brian, the two different methods for coming away with a race win. You either go like a bat out of you-know-what when you got a full course caution, or you just turn an extra lap. But we're still going to deploy all the emergency services teams. They're going to be behind that driver as long as he doesn't decide to take another lap.
Well, he's definitely going to see it now. He's definitely really slowed down now. But from what I heard on the call on the radio, they're probably going to have to use the flatbed on Thomas Brown because it does look like the call came in as some suspension damage.
Right. Yeah, they're saying the left rear suspension is down on that car. All right, so let's take a look. David Gusak, he is your leader. And, of course, he's just cemented that lead by an extra lap.
He's up by a lap and a half.
Exactly. In his 63 Triumph Spitfire. By the way, I think he's running his fastest lap right now. Andrew Moore.
Poor David.
Yeah, sorry, David. We're just kidding with you. Andrew Moore currently running second in his Austin Healey Sprite. Jesse Darrow up into third in his Triumph Spitfire, the number 51 car. Gusak is in an EPV machine. And then we've got the the FPV machines of Moore, Darrow, and then Peter Uzdavinis in the number 25 MG Midget. And those are for, if we take a look here, EPVs for cars under 2,000 cc, which makes sense since we said it was 1.3 liters and down, right? Mm-hmm. and then FPV for cars 1,600 cc and lower. And then currently leading in Formula V, in the Formula V historic class, and we saw this yesterday, Brian, and it didn't happen during yesterday afternoon's feature race, but we saw this in the morning where Mike Lawrence and Keith Lawrence were just dicing for the entire race in the wet. It was great to watch. Mike is racing one of the historic Formula Vs, and that is for, I believe, that is for cars from 1970 to 1980. And then Keith Lawrence is in one of the vintage Formula Vs, and he is driving a 1975 Caldwell there. And right now, Mike is leading Keith. Mike's in the 6th car. Keith is in the 7th car. To make it more confusing, they're running 5th and 6th. And then
6th and 7th, running 5th and 6th. Well, Mike, and we talked about it yesterday. Yeah. The rain is a great equalizer, right? I mean, because you had that battle, excuse me, between both of them in the morning. But then when we got to the afternoon, again, a little bit drier track than in the morning, and Mike was able to really run away, kind of finish in that top 4, top 5 in that Caldwell.
All right, Michael Taplesy, we saw Jeff earlier.
Right.
Michael is running in one of the vintage Formula Vs. He's in a 1969 Autodynamics Mark IV. So he's currently running second in FV Vintage, 8th overall. Then Doug Zink, third in FV Vintage. I would have been very surprised, and I think it would have been sacrilege if he was running anything other than a Zink chassis. He's in a 68 Zink Z5.
Right.
Then Alex Schaefer in his Mini Cooper is out there. So I think I mentioned earlier, we've got the 2 Formula Vs separating the 2 Mini Coopers out there. And then the MG Midget of Thomas Van Auken the white and green one. Of course, we still need to figure out who's got the 360 camera, which is now being used to capture the suspension setup of his MG midget.
Yeah, I missed the call of the number, but the call was that the camera that he was using to video some 360 views is now videoing his suspension.
Yes, exactly.
So.
And we do have a number of midget drivers out there. We've got Thomas Van Auken. We also have Niall McCabe, who is running 16th overall as well. We've got Heather Richards. We haven't talked about Heather today. Heather in the number 50 machine, British Racing Green Mini Coupe, MG midget, pardon me. She is running 19th overall. And then we've got Rick Haynes out in the field today. Rick's in the orange number 31 car.
And driving the shorter variance cars.
Yes. All right, so we are still under black flag conditions here, and you can see, see if we can pull the timing ticker away from the screen there, Spencer. There we go. So, well, we still don't see the race car, but we think the race car is just ahead of that wrecker.
Well, I think they put that the race car up on the rollback that went out there as well.
And they're all leaving the scene now, Brian. So we should be going back to racing here in just a moment. Yeah. Let me do this. Let me make a first call to the grid for the next group, since we know this group is going to be going back out here in just a moment. Attention in the paddock. Attention in the paddock. Race group number 3, Marlboro Cup drivers. Please start heading to the grid. Your race is next. Race group 3, Marlboro Cup drivers. Please head to the grid now. You're going to be racing in just a few minutes. And Brian, this might be a perfect time or a great time to talk about our great friend Bill Stoller. If you are here this weekend at the Jefferson 500 and you want to have some absolutely amazing photos of your car, you need to talk to Bill Stoller, or you need to look him up online. It's https Bill Stoller, BILLSTOLER.com. You can also reach him at 717-372-2279. After the elation and not drug-induced high. He said he felt like he was on drugs. But after the high of racing and driving in the VRG school earlier this week, Bill is now behind his lens. And you can see there, we got right on the screen that beautiful BMW CSL. He is an absolute gem of a photographer.
He does tend to hide in the bushes sometimes.
Yes, he does.
To take these pictures. So
you may not be safe in Pennsylvania. Anyway, thank you so much, and definitely reach out to Bill Stoller, and he'll set you up with some amazing photos of your car. And he always posts them on VRG's website or VRG's Facebook page as well. You'll see him on Facebook, so you can get a pretty good idea of what's being shot. Of course, Brian, we've got the field back out. They're slightly better packed up than they were in the last group. Sort of, kind of.
Kind of getting some calls as well on the 31 there of Rick Hayes, who was in the back of the field having some heavy smoke. Looks like our last car coming off now is the 13.
The 13. That's Thomas Van Auken, another one of our midgets. All right, so we're going to have about 6 minutes, a little bit less than 6 minutes on the clock, Brian, as our leaders are coming up the hill now.
I think the word was the leaders are through 8 and flying. So.
Yeah, and they are.
They have taken away. They have.
And Brian, we're back to racing. Well, we kind of were earlier, but back to racing here as our leaders. And that was Andrew Moore that we saw come across the line first in the number 79 machine. I'm wondering if
David Gusak, since he went and did that extra lap, they held him. He was the last car that came off of pit road.
Correct.
Other than the 31 who was, having some smoking issues. So there he is now.
Okay, so he's coming out now.
He's coming out of turn 10 now. So he is now going to cross the start finish line. So there he is. So basically, what's going to end up happening is that the timing and scoring is still going to show him, since they did not hold him that lap.
Up.
He's always going to be a lap up, and Andrew Moore is technically the leader at this point.
Yeah, so they're basically
of this group.
They're basically going to suck one lap off of Gusak's time at the end of the race, and they essentially gave him like a half field penalty.
Right. So. Yeah, so when he came back in, they put him in the very back of the pack, and then just sent him back out. So it's all good. We'll figure it out in timing and scoring at the end of the day. But again, Andrew Moore leading this group now. Jesse Darrow is Andrew Moore comes really, really wide out of turn 9. That whole car really much loaded up on that left side there, Greg, and really pushed the issue there as he hits the apex there in turn 10. Actually, we got to take that film and send it down to Bill Smith, because that was a very good. That was a very good apex, and to do that in a truck.
All right, so there you go, cross the line. Andrew Moore, who just sets his fastest lap of the session, Brian, and in that beautiful Austin Healey Sprite, running about 0.7 of a second faster than Jesse Darrow's Spitfire. Peter Uzdavinas, he is right there as well in his midget, and he's running very similar. Actually, he was about a half second faster than Uzdavinas, much closer to what Andrew Moore was running. Mike Lawrence also, and as a matter of fact, Lawrence in the number 6 car in his Caldwell Formula V, faster than our top 4 drivers.
Yeah, no, it's.
And now we've got a Formula V, Brian, that's pulled off on the access road over by turn 3. And that is the 37 machine that has just pulled off.
Actually, the number 7. 7 green. It just
Keith
now
Lawrence
came through the back door, through the back gate. So he's driving up through the thing.
Yeah, that's Keith Lawrence in the Z5.
Yeah.
So he quickly pulled off there. So the fight that we were looking at before with Mike Lawrence and Keith Lawrence, well, that race is now done. So Mike Lawrence, who again and we can see the difference there, because Lawrence on the restart, Brian, was almost 4 seconds up on Keith Lawrence.
Yeah.
So big difference there. The rest of the field really looking to be pretty strung out.
Well, what that does is that actually puts Michael Tapacy in the lead there.
Yeah.
In the in the Formula VV category.
Right.
So again, where Keith Lawrence had pulled out and gotten in front of Michael Tapacy, along with Mac McCormick there in a different group, but they were all right there together. That actually puts Tapacy now.
Right, and that's going to move Doug Zink up in the second.
Mm-hmm.
We should see now Robert O'Connor in the number 2 Zink move up to 3rd place in class. Colby Trumbo just off the podium at the moment. Colby in the number 160 Zink Z5, the blue and orange machine. He is now sitting 4th in that class.
And we should probably look to see if we can't pick up the Tapacy and the Doug Zink, because they are about 0.9 of a second apart, so pretty close together somewhere on the racetrack right now. So we'll have to look to see if we can find them, because that would be the closest battle on the racetrack right now for position in class between those two drivers.
All right, well, we just had David Smith, who is running 8th in the class, across the start-finish line to start his 5th lap. So we should see, certainly as our leaders will be coming by here in just a few moments, we should have the Formula V's start to come into view.
And there goes Andrew Moore.
Well, I was going to say is we just had Mike Lawrence come across the line. I think we now know why Mike Lawrence is able to carry so much speed, Brian. He is tucked right under the back of Jesse Barrow's Spitfire.
Right.
He has got a giant hole in the air being made by that Spitfire so that he can come down the front straight. And so now let's take a look there. There goes the 39 of Zink.
So I think Tapacy just went by.
Yeah.
He's now headed down in through the middle of turns 1 and 2. And then Doug Zink has opened up. So that 0.9 of a second last time by is now 2 seconds of a gap. So,
all right, Brian. So it sounds as though We are now working last lap. They are acknowledging, at least for the moment, David Gusak as the overall leader. So he's going to be the first driver to get the checkered flag. As we mentioned, he is currently a lap up on everybody else here.
Right.
Andrew Moore, though, noted the Austin Healey, that beautiful red Austin Healey, the 79 car, just reset the fast lap of the session, and he is running. This is pretty darn neat, Brian. He ran a 129.5. That is 0.3 faster than Gusak has raced all session long, and
I'm sorry, Greg.
Yes.
I was looking out the front window here when Spencer went over to the start-finish line. Mike Lawrence and Jesse Darrow were side by side, and he got the move over flag.
Got the blue
so
flag.
it was like, wait a minute, I'm racing for position here.
Yeah, I was exactly. And Lawrence was only 9/100ths back from Jesse Darrow at the time. All right, our leader, David Gusak, in that white number 88 Triumph Spitfire, he is out of turn 10. He is on the front straight, and he is going to cross the line. There he is, taking the win. Is David Gusak. He's going to win the EPV class in his 63 Triumph Spitfire. Taking the win in FPV will be Andrew Moore in his 1964 Austin Healey Sprite. The Spitfire of Jesse Darrow will finish second in class. And then we've got Peter Hughes-Devinis. Then we've got Mike Lawrence, who is I believe our sole racer in Formula V Historic. He's going to finish fourth overall, but that was pretty freaking amazing to see him right up there. Peter Hughes-Devinis just ran his fastest lap of the race on the last lap, Brian. The MG midget, the orange 64 midget, will finish here. Actually, let's take a look. He's coming down. That's the 79 machine that just came across. That's actually Andrew Moore.
Well, here they come right now. Here comes the battle here that we were talking about.
Yeah.
As Mike Lawrence waving as he goes by in a side-by-side battle, but waving.
So this actually makes more sense now, Brian. So what they ended up doing, because they had Gusak now behind our leaders, essentially it puts them all back onto the lead lap.
Sure.
So that's how it works. So Gusak with the win, Andrew Moore, Jesse Darrow, and then Mike Lawrence. Lawrence fell a little bit off the back of that Spitfire on the last lap. He finished 111 thousandths, so 1/10, we'll say, back from Jesse Darrow. Decided to give him a little extra room, maybe a good photo opportunity at the checkered flag. Peter Hughes-Devinis, Mac McCormick finishing sixth, and McCormick takes the win in CSV in his 66 Mini Cooper. Michael Taplesey takes the win in Formula V Vintage in his Autodynamics Mark V. He finishes seventh overall. Doug Zink will finish second in that class in his Zink Z5. Then we've got Michael Havlick. His Austin Healey Sprite will take the win in HPV. And the HPVs, I believe, are for 1,300 cc and below. Let me verify that real quick. HPV, 1,100 cc and below, so it's probably a 998 motor. And then we've got Robert Connor in his Formula V Vintage. He will finish third in that class, 10th overall. Okay, Brian, let's take another quick break. We'll make a final call to the grid, though, before we do, and then we'll be back in a few moments. Attention in the paddock. Final call to the grid for race group number 3, Marlboro Cup racers. Please head to the grid. Your race starting in a few moments. Race group 3, Marlboro Cup drivers. Please head to the grid. All right, let's take a break. We'll be back in a few moments. And welcome back, everybody, to Summit Point Raceway, Summit Point Motorsports Park in the 2024 Jefferson 500, presented by the Vintage Racer Group and Summit Point. I'm Greg Ginsburg, Brian Donati. We've got Spencer Gaynor here with us as well. And Brian, we've got 3 more races this morning, 3 more races to wrap up our broadcasting this weekend from Summit Point Raceway. And up now is the Marlboro Cup, which of course was named after Marlboro Motor Raceway, otherwise known as Marlboro Speedway, otherwise known as the Grand Lady of the East, essentially the predecessor to Summit Point Raceway. It was located out in Prince George's County, and we had so many numerous racers get their starts at Marlboro. I think first and foremost, Roger Penske is the biggest name that comes to mind, the captain, and we have had primarily SCCA road racing there, but also NASCAR. It actually started its life as a dirt oval and closed in 1969. And of course, Summit Point came online just a short time after that. This group, we saw in the last group, it was primarily for our small bore cars, 1300 cc, 1.3 liters and less. This is for slightly larger displacement machines. We're going to see some Porsche 914s, primarily the 914 6s, the 6-cylinder models. We'll see some, huge engine machines like Mazda Miatas, 1.6 liters and 1.8 liters out here. We've got some Porsche 911s, BMW 2002s, and 1600s, also some Triumph GT4s and GT6s as well here. And they're looking so far pretty well formed up, Brian.
Yeah.
They started to form up before they ever got to turn 3, and we should have hopefully a very pretty start here for our for our 5th of 7 races here this weekend.
Tell you
this afternoon.
Yeah, that 29 of Henry Fry and that Triumph TR250, that car has been super fast all weekend long and has pretty much dominated this class the entire weekend, even in the rain yesterday and in the afternoon.
Yes.
When it started to dry out a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see if Robert Anderson can go through and catch on here. He gets a good start, and then Henry Fry kind of takes off from there.
Yeah, we'll see here as Mike Kelly, our starter, looking the field over, and green flag is in the air. And actually, you know what? I think that might have been Taylor Hyatt throwing the green flag there at the starter stand. Kicked Mike Kelly out as our drivers making their way down to turn 1. And Brian, we can see already Robert Anderson sets his Vitesse up center of track to hold off so many racers going into turn 1, moves over drivers left at the very last moment to open up that corner and get a much wider arc into the corner.
Lenny Stan in that Porsche, in that 911, in that 894 machine, gets a great run through turns 1 and turns 2 coming up through the short chute there. We'll see whether or not he's going to be able to hold off Henry Fry. Greg, this could be a challenge here. How well does Henry Fry deal with Trout now trying to get by Lenny Stan and then has to get in front of Robert Anderson? Every time in the start of the races the last couple of days, Henry's always been able to get out in front. Now he's going to kind of be in some, what we call a little bit of dirty air, right? Because you've got some different things set up, especially even in the draft, especially coming down the front stretch. So we'll see how he gets through the carousel and works his way back up turn 9 and turn 10. We'll see whether or not he's going to be able to get by that 894 Porsche.
All right, we'll talk David Gott, who started in 12th position here, Brian, in the number 80 Triumph TR4, and also Craig Seifert in the red 1993 Mazda Miata. Both got very good starts.
Yeah.
Seifert, I think, moved up about 4 positions there. We'll see when he comes around turn 10. But as we get ready to complete our first lap here today, it's Robert Anderson in his beautiful 1300cc Lotus-powered Vitesse taking the lead as they go into turn 1. But Brian now side by side, coming down under braking, going into turn 1 as Lenny Stan in that Porsche. He's battling for the lead.
I tell you what, Lenny Stan not going to give this one up here a little bit. You could clearly see He's ready to roll this morning here for this sprint race as he throws that Porsche 911 in there. Looks like we may end up with a standing yellow after half the group goes through. But now Robert,
and the other half is off the track.
Yeah, right. And now Robert Anderson's going to be able to go ahead and pull back in front of Lenny Stan in that 894 machine. So Robert Anderson's going to be able to hold off Lenny Stan and Henry Fry, still trying to get by him. But you're right, Greg. Last time by, they clearly went side by side.
All right, so we got word here, Brian, and I saw a big gap right in the middle of the field. It sounds like Mike Moore, who was running sixth in his 62 Triumph TR4, spun the car coming through turn one. He has managed to continue, so that local caution over turn one has been withdrawn, but I believe that's going to move Dave Biegert in his 1990 Mazda Miata, the silver number one machine, now up into fourth position, and going to then, it's going to move David Bain in his Mazda Miata, the 774 machine, up into sixth position. My mistake.
Well, I tell you what, David Bain is under a huge heavy pressure coming out of turn 10. Going to be headed down the start-finish line. That's going to be the 80 there of, let's see, that's David Gott.
In his Triumph TR4.
Yeah.
Seifert, who we talked about a little bit earlier in the red Mazda Miata, he's up to 10th. He's right there as well. Chuck G and Gee in his Triumph TR4A is right there, as well as Justin D'Antonio in his Mazda Miata. Let's also add Tim Ritchie and Scott Birkland in there as well. Ritchie in another Mazda Miata, and then we've got the white and blue Porsche 911S of Scott Birkland as well.
Yeah, a couple Mazda Miatas fighting here back and forth. There you see, there's the 774 of David Bain, and then the 4X of Craig Seifert. It's not like we never said that here before.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, the 80 of Gott who's sitting there in that little Triumph TR4 is probably going, why did I get here exactly?
Because we got three. You got three Miatas there, right there to nose to tail now as they came through, and that's Craig Seifert. Let's see, you got David Bain, Craig Seifert, and now throw Justin D'Antonio in there. And you're right, Gott's going, get me out of this Miata sandwich.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like he's pretty much out of it now as they're coming out through turn 8 and up the hill. Should mention that Dave Biegert in that Mazda Miata, he had just reset fast lap the last time by, but now crossing the start-finish line in his yellow TR250, the Triumph. That is Henry Fry. He is your new leader, and he just reset fast lap and was, Brian, almost 2-3 full seconds faster than Anderson that last time around. The gap now, I think, 2.7 seconds. Anderson, he's got Stan and Biegert and Jansen behind him, but Henry Fry, it took him 2 or 3 laps, but he's starting to open up a bit of a gap.
Excuse me, yep. I tell you what, Greg, I'm going to drop back. I'm going to talk about this Miata battle that we had, but now throw in Chuck Gee in that 612 machine. We saw yesterday in that Triumph TR4A, he had some challenges yesterday afternoon as the race kind of unfolded towards the end. Now he's the driver in the middle of that Miata meat sandwich coming out of turns 1 and 2. Last time you'll see him coming down into turn 5 right here. There goes our Miatas.
And Brian, let me mention, as they're coming through turn 5, we just got a call from over at turn 1 that there may have been contact between Craig Seifert in the red Miata, David Bain in the blue Miata, that they're still nose-tail right now coming through turn 6. And I was saying how David Gott must be wondering, how did I get here and how can I get out? Luckily, he cleared them both by about 6 car lengths.
Yeah. And it's not like we've never had contact between two Miatas here on this racetrack.
No.
It's as normal. I think when there's no racing going on here, you have contact between two Miatas. They just magically appear with some contact. So, Chuck Gee right behind all of that last time by, and you could tell because that's dropped him back, further where we were talking about earlier on where he was right up there with them.
And Brian, it's a good thing that I have Scotch guarded all of our audio equipment because I almost spit some Gatorade out.
I think Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday we have contact here with the Miata. It wouldn't be a race if we didn't, no matter what type of race it is.
No, I hear you, and I almost totally agree. All right, let's Oh, and we got a local caution down at turn 1, Brian. It looks like we got a car off on the
And
outside.
that
of
is
turn
actually
2.
Chuck Gee in that 612, and it's. I'm not sure if he likes that spot, but that is exactly where he was yesterday.
Yes.
Where he had some problems and then tried to run through. So I do know that this morning, and I know this because he's paddocked right below the tower here, that he was looking through some stuff this morning and going through it and revving up the motor. So he may be having some electrical motor.
Yeah, so he is kind of hard to see on this shot, but if you go as far as you can look, all the way down on the right-hand side, basically where the curve turn 2 at the very top edge of the track there, he is parked right up against the trees for the second time in 24 hours.
I'm also.
All right,
we're going
Brian,
to a double yellow.
Yeah, we're gonna go to a full course caution.
And I think this could be because of the 48
okay.
Of Coben Sunderman, because he has pulled off driver's left. You can actually, I think, see him right on the station.
He's right by the turn 4.
Yeah.
Turn 4 flag stand. If we can go to the next camera, Spencer.
We go to the turn 3.
Yeah. He's sitting right below the flag station there, just a couple feet past. And so we briefly now have brought out the full course caution, and now we're going to black flag the session, going to bring all of our cars down the pit lane.
Yeah, and it looks like he's got some debris, and I think that was part of it because there's debris out on the racetrack right where he's at. So it makes sense to go ahead and get them off and get these done. So the cars are now starting to see this black flag all after this double yellow, so they're starting to come down. So they picked it up rather quickly. So that bodes well because now we can get Rescue 1 out and start picking these up.
All right, Brian, real quick, let me make a call to the grid for our next group. Attention in the paddock. Attention in the paddock. First call to the grid for race group 2. Our big board drivers, Cunningham Cup. Please head to the grid. Race group 2. Cunningham Cup drivers, our big board drivers. Your race is next. All right, Brian, so let's quickly here, we'll reset the field as our drivers are coming down the pit lane and getting set up. Hopefully we'll have them back on track here pretty quickly. Henry Fry in the number 29 Triumph TR250. He is your leader, and he leads the DPV class. Robert Anderson, who is our sole racer in the C Sports Racer class in his Vitesse, 1 of 1, gorgeous machine, 1970 machine, is second. Lenny Stan in his CPV Porsche 911, that's a 1970 911. He is running third. Dave Biegert in the number 1 Mazda Miata. He is running fourth, and he is in the ITC class. Scott Jansen in EPV, and he's your EPV leader. He is currently fifth. He's in the number 37 Triumph probably not TR6, GT6. Ian Ditson in his Porsche 912, 4-cylinder Porsche. He is running sixth, and he is currently your leader he's running second in EPV to Scott Jansen. And then we've got Andrew Moore in his MGB. He runs seventh in the green number 50 car. He's third in EPV. Then we've got David Gott in the TR4. Craig in his and he's in DPV. He runs eighth. Craig Seifert in his Miata runs ninth. Tim Ritchie will be seen in 10th. He's in the number 94 Mazda Miata. Now, Ritchie is in the ITB class, Brian, which tells me that he has, and given the year of the machine, it's a 1993 car, he is likely in a 1.8 liter car, whereas the other Miatas around him are in the ITC class. They are running the 1600cc cars.
Right.
And then just out of the top 10, Scott Berkland, who's in the 1969 Porsche 911S, the white and blue machine. I really love the look of that 106 car.
You know, I was sitting here looking at our little database that we have on Tim Ritchie, and I love the occupation, right? You look at that.
Please tell me you didn't say Gigolo, because we have one of those.
No, it says chief bottle washer, babysitter, designer, engineer, and therapist at Vintage Racing Services.
Very, very.
So, man of many hats.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Go through and look at a couple of other ones here that we may have in here.
So, hey, Brian. So we were talking about yesterday, I think, and I forgot who we were talking about, but I made the offhanded comment that Morgan Burkhardt, who we know who races, he took the pole in Spec Racer 4 this past year at the runoffs. He's running now in Michelin Pilot Cup. That he got his first ever race win when he was a negative 3 months, and so Dave Gott, he's probably used to being shuffled around.
Yeah, we said this yesterday. Yeah, I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, Dave in that beautiful TR4, he's in software sales, got his first win when his mother was 8 months pregnant with him. So he says he's been autocrossing since 1990.
Well, that's why I said he was autocross in 1990 plus 8 months.
Plus 8 months.
Or minus 8 months, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's his other racing experience.
And in that TR4A with another organization, the Historic Race Group, Group 3 champion 2021, also 2022, and then autocross champ with the New England region, and I guess New England region of the SCCA. 2019, 2022, 2023, and that was running a much more, it's in the G-Stock class, running a slightly more modern vehicle, a 2018 Honda Civic Si. And he said, he grew up with mom and dad at the track, both an inspiration, both in driving and in wrenching.
Yep. We got cars back on course right now. We're going to get this lap. It's going to be a double yellow here.
Yeah, and Brian, we've got one car that was at the front of the field, and I think the first car to pit in, being held, and I believe that the reason it's being held is it was a little bit further back in the field, and they didn't want to send him out with our leaders, and I'm looking to see if we can pick up who that is.
I was actually looking through the database, and I just saw that car there, so we may be able to pick up the color from the picture. Maybe not.
It is. I think is it Bob Schaefer?
Yes, I think that is Bob Schaefer.
Yeah, Bob Schaefer in the 1965 MGB, and he is just now heading out on track. He's in the 127 car. He's going to head out at the tail end of the field.
Yeah, and I think that may have been by design by him, right? I mean, knowing that he wanted to, did not want to be the leader of this group, and look, the leader of this group that's going to go out. One of the leaders we talked about it. His very first racing, it's this weekend.
Yes.
Ryan Atkins in that 03 Miata. So Ryan Atkins is going to be kind of at the start. The first car that took off pit road. Again, they're somewhat racing already. Already down through turn 6 through the double yellow. So again, having to watch that our leaders are, they went and took off. So.
Yeah, and so a little bit about Schaefer, because I don't think we've talked much about him. It's beautiful. It's an MGB, very early MGB, a 65 MGB. It's in the Gulf livery, even has the Gulf logo, I think, on the front of the car. And this has been a long time race car. It raced in SCCA in the Southeast Division back in the 80s. Raced at PBIR, Palm Beach International, also at Daytona and Sebring. And recently it has been a VRG machine. Previous owner raced it at Pit Race at Shenley Park, at Road America, at Watkins Glen, and also down at VIR. That previous owner, Kenny Williamson. And and we know that Kenny's here this weekend. He's been racing racing an Elva Courier. We saw him, I think, just in the last race group or 2 races ago in Group 5 in the Donohue Cup.
Yep. Tell you what, Greg, as we went back to green, Henry Fry in that 29 Triumph TR250 and Robert Anderson in that Vitesse Sports Racer, they actually came across the start-finish line and got on the gas really, really hard, really coming out of turn 9, which is where you really want to be.
Sure.
But Robert Anderson was right under, literally the front of that Vitesse was up underneath the back rear bumper of Henry Fry. And now Henry's pulled away a little bit as Robert's having a little bit of problems trying to get through the carousel there with one of the first cars that had gone out, who took the black flag all first and came down pit road. So we'll have to see if he's able to catch him. It does look like that as they come out of turn 10, you see Henry Fry is pulled very far away. But now you've got Lenny Stan. He's trying to put some pressure on Robert Anderson in that number 78 machine as they go down through there. So it looks like our group is now going to be working their last lap here, Greg.
Right. Yeah, so Henry Fry, he's got just 2 miles remaining, and if he can hold off Robert Anderson, he'll have the win. And he really opened up a pretty big gap there on that next lap now, and that beautiful yellow TR250 just now coming through turn 3. We can see the gap back to second with Robert Anderson and Lenny Stan. That last time by, Stan was about 0.2 of a second faster than Anderson, but he's still got a little bit over a half second to make up. A little bit further back, we can see him coming through 3 now. That's the battle for 4th. We got Scott Jansen in his GT6. We've got the MGB of Moore. We've got Dave Biegert in his Mazda Miata. We've got David Gott, who's right back into that battle. Look at this coming down into turn 5. Oh, holy moly!
That's all the whole group you were just talking about.
Yeah, exactly. and Craig Seifert, that little red Mazda Miata. We were talking earlier about New Coke and original Coke.
Yeah.
Well, that's the red Miata there. You can see with the little Coca-Cola wave on it.
Yeah.
All right, our leader now coming out of turn 10 and onto the front straight. There is Henry Fry, and he is going to take the win in 2 days Marlboro Cup race. Congratulations to him. Finishing second will be Robert Anderson in the number 78 Vitesse. Lenny Stan in his Porsche will come home in third. Scott Jansen coming home, and he's going to barely beat the field there in the 37 car. But look at this coming to the line. It is... And is that a little bit further back in?
Well, that's a little bit further back. So that's David Gott ended up getting fifth. But then you've got Andrew Moore, Craig Seifert, Tim Ritchie, who just passed David Biegert. That's 8th and 9th.
That's right. So Biegert lost 5 positions on the last lap.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So Gott, as you mentioned, in the TR4, finishing 5th. Andrew Moore, Seifert, who's in that Coca-Cola car that I was talking about, finishing 7th. Tim Ritchie in the blue Miata will finish 8th. Biegert drops back to 9th. Scott Berkland in the 10 car. I got confused when I saw the 4 and go, wait, he's further back than that. Yeah. Scott Berkland in the 106 Porsche. He will finish in 10th. Just outside of the top 10, we've got Jason Suki in his Triumph GT6, pardon me. Thomas Hunt, and we know Tom and his father, Wally, an RX-7 driver, finishing in 12th. And by the way, Tom has, I think, the most beautiful little golden retriever here this weekend. I love that dog. Jonathan Fields in his Mazda Miata 13th. Alex Heckert in his MGB 14th. And Alan Good in his TR4A will finish 15th. All right, so let's make a final call to the grid for our next group as things are really winding down here, Brian, for our broadcast. We have 2 more races to bring you here this weekend from the Jefferson 500. And that next race, Brian, is going to be Group 2, Cunningham Cup Big Bore drivers. Please head to the grid. Race group number 2, Cunningham Cup drivers. Please head to the grid. Your race starting in just a few moments. All right, everybody, going to take another break. We'll be right back here from Summit Point Motorsports Park and the Jefferson 500 presented by VRG. Welcome back to Summit Point Raceway, everybody, and the 2024 Jefferson 500 presented by the Vintage Racer Group. I'm Greg Ginsburg. We got Brian Donati. We've got Spencer Gaynor, and we've also got, Brian, 2 more races here this morning and 2 more races for our coverage of the Jefferson 500. Heading out on track now is our big board group. This is the Cunningham Cup, named after entrepreneur and sportsman Briggs Cunningham. You're going to see Mustangs, Camaros, Firebirds, Corvettes, and, well, not exactly big bore, but maybe some Alfa Romeos. But heading down in the turn 1 behind the pace car, we should mention, and I think we just saw the headlights come on, Brian, that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful 3-liter CSL BMW driven by Clark Ostrom.
Yeah, I tell you what, that is such a gorgeous-looking car. I actually got a chance to look at that car a little bit up close yesterday as I was driving out of here. And again, just being able to look at that, that car and all of them, actually, these cars are the larger of the cars based off engine displacements and things like that. So should be a pretty good race. We have seen it all weekend long, where Michael Dubé in that 68 Chevrolet Camaro, along with Kevin Farnham in that 371 Pontiac Firebird. Those two have been going, and we saw it in the chat yesterday. When was the last time you could say those 2 cars and those 2 models and brands fighting against each other? Well, I can clearly tell you I've enjoyed it this week.
That's right.
Talking about it.
So heading out on the track a little bit late to join the field, Brian, is Gilbert Grable out of Ridgely, Maryland. He's a test engineer, an engine machinist, an engine builder. He's been racing for 32 years between Sports Car Club of America and numerous vintage organizations. That Ford Mustang, the 66 Mustang, he said he's owned the car since it was 11 years old, since 1977. It was a street car, developed it as an autocrosser, and then it into a vintage race machine. So hopefully he'll be able to make up for lost time and lost ground here, as I believe he's going to be starting tail end of the field, starting 19th.
Yeah.
And it sounds like we've got one more car.
Well, that's the other Mustang that's back over here behind our, that's actually in the same stable with Gilbert Grable.
That's exactly. So he's on the pit lane now. Another one of our blue Ford Mustangs. Yep. We'll get that in a moment. As Ostrom decides to start from the left-hand lane, pretty much opening things up almost immediately, Brian, for the 68 Camaro of Michael Dubé. As he breaks away from the rest of the field as they go down into turn 1. He's already got about 10 car lengths on the rest of the field. Kevin Farnham in that white Firebird there as well, the Porsche 911 of Michael Ballo, and Jim Lenahan's Porsche 914-6. That's your top 5 going in. And then we've got the Alfa Romeo part of the Mitchell pair. We've got Alan Mitchell and his Alfa Romeo. That's the black one. We should have his wife a little bit further back in the field, and actually I don't think Melanie in the red and white one actually took the green. But wow, Brian and I, we were talking a little bit about the Ford Mustang that came out a little bit late there of Grable. He came through turn 3. And the rear end stepped out, I'd say, probably about 30 degrees on him. Good thing he has some autocross experience. Very quick hands to get that thing back underneath him.
Well, he really had no time to catch up to the field. Basically, the field was taking the green flag, and he was coming out of turn 10, so he was already full bore in there. So not getting any heat in the brakes or the tires there on that warm-up lap. So, basically going through one of the highest speed, corners. And here comes the 66 now, Greg Smith. They were able to get that Ford Mustang running out, but here comes our leaders now. They're actually going to catch him coming out of the pits, going across the start-finish line. Michael Dubé in that Chevrolet Camaro.
Yeah, and Brian, what a great start for Jim Lenahan in his Porsche 914-6. He now moves up to 3rd overall around Doug Hagopian in the red 74 Porsche 911, And Kevin Farnham in that Pontiac, who was so strong in our first sprint race of the weekend, Brian, on Friday. Now Farnham falling back into 5th position. And that's hard for me to say. Farnham falling back into 5th position.
Ooh, well, you said it really good.
Thank you. But it's very difficult.
That is very. Yeah, look, I think it's going to take a lap or two for Farnham to get back in front of those two Porsches. They've kind of got him, and I'll say this, boxed in a little bit. So I think once he's able to get out in some clear traffic on the start-finish line next time by, he may be able to, unless he's got a little bit of a challenge here. Still trying to get heat in the tires. That Firebird may not be handling. Right now that he wants him. But, we talked about Michael Dubé yesterday, pretty much all weekend long, the power that Camaro has going down the front stretch. But now Clark Ostrom, he's as close as he's been since the start of this race, where he actually started on the pole, Greg. So he is starting to reel in that Chevrolet Camaro.
Yeah, and, Brian, so Lenahan, I said he had a great start, moved up in the 3rd position. We'll have to see. He started 4th yesterday, and just as I say that, Brian, he started 4th yesterday and fell all the way, ended up finishing 8th in the feature race. And just as I say that, he loses a number of positions. Yeah, and we're trying to find out. And sounds like he decided, well, he's right there. I think he brought his car down the pit lane, Brian.
He did. Yep.
And his day is now done. Yep. So good timing for the announcer's curse. It took 6 races, but there you are.
Yep. He actually came in there at speed.
Yes.
Right? I mean, so I'm not sure if he meant to do that, but he came in there at speed, and it kind of shocked everybody there.
Yeah, our emergency services team was a little shook up there.
Yeah.
Hey, let's take a look, Brian. This battle of the Porsche 911s that we've got now running through. They're coming into the carousel now. And this is, I'm trying to pick out where they are. Oh, this is Brezhnehan and Dean. This is the battle for 5th right now. The 88 Porsche 911 and the 69 Porsche 911, both of them in the APH class. Yep. And we'll see them coming out of turn 10 here now. Just ahead of a huge field, and it looks like the 153 of David Dean. Now he's able to get around Brezhnehan to move that number 60, move the 1969 car up in the 5th, and he's opened up a pretty good gap. He opened up almost a little over a second on him. But look at this gaggle coming into one right behind him, Brian.
Yeah, well, you've got the 66 car, Greg Smith, who really just now getting up, trying to get out of the way of everybody until he gets the tires and brakes kind of up the temperature. He's starting to hang with them now as he gets in, but he was trying to get out of the way of that battle as they went down into turn 1, and it kind of bottlenecked everybody up. But now that they've gotten through there, you got the 41 Phil Ackley in there as well, and you got Chris Cozy, in there in 8th. So a pretty good battle between that group. With the 166 machine of Cozy and the 41 of Philip Ackley, again, trying to get and maneuver around that 66 of Greg Smith.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a big pack there. We've got the beautiful Jaguar E-Type Coupe in that fight as well. And I think right at the tail end there is Ron Cheka in that blue and white BMW M3.
And we now have a new leader. Throw the 72 of Clark Ostrom up into the front here. Getting by the 68 of Michael Dubé as they head down into turn 1. So again, it does take Clark Ostrom a good 2-3 laps to really get that BMW CSL wound up.
Yeah, absolutely want to get to meet the equipment. Also, Brian, Kevin Farnham in the white first-gen Pontiac Firebird, the 371 car. Took him a little while to get some heat in the tires and the brakes. He gets around Doug Hagopian and moves up into 3rd position.
Yeah, I tell you what, Hagopian, we saw him yesterday along with David Dean in that 153, that other Porsche. They did really well yesterday in the morning when it was really damp and wet out. And it looks like we got one car spinning there down into turn 1. That looks like maybe one of our Boxer Mustangs, I think.
Yeah, I think that, exactly. I think that may be, let's take a look. I think that's Corey Barrick in the 331 machine, the 66 Mustang, in the 66 fastback there, as we saw the rear end step out on him. Yeah, indeed. Got called in as the 33, but that's the 331 machine of Corey Barrick.
Yep.
That went around, and he has now continued.
Yeah. Yeah, I got in there a little hot getting into turn one. I locked up. You can see next time we go to our when we do hit that camera, when we pick up turn one, you'll see there coming in, you'll see on driver's right the skid marks. That's actually from him in that Mustang.
That's right.
Right there to the left there. He locked it up pretty good. Almost didn't get to make that.
Right. And Brian, you know that the best way to get a mention on this broadcast is for you to do something right in front of our cameras.
Right.
And so Corey's from St. Clairsville, Ohio. He's an attorney, so I'm sure he's going to argue that this wasn't such a big deal. But he does continue. That Ford Mustang, he's owned it for 24 years. Said he built it up, put it race condition himself.
And I'm seeing that we have been pronouncing Clark Ostrom's name wrong. It's Orstrom.
Ostrom.
So we apologize for that. But when we say it wrong, he goes faster, so that should work.
Well, thank you, Steve. And I think Steve Ficacci also, and I know I probably mispronounced Ficacci. I think he also corrected us on Stefan Vappa as well,
right?
A little bit earlier today. So thank you, Steve. We appreciate it. Unfortunately, we get driver bios from everybody. The one thing we didn't get were pronunciation guides here. Attention in the paddock, First call to the grid for race group number 1. That's the Wyer Cup for our IMSA RS and SCCA TransAM 2.5 reunion drivers. Please head to the grid. Race group number 1. Wyer Cup drivers, please head to the grid. Your sprint race, our final sprint race of the morning, is next. And that's one I've been dying for. Hopefully, I'm hoping by saying this that we may see Jim Karamanis come up and join us for that
or either
race
come up
again.
or actually get in the car and run.
That would be even
he
better.
Hasn't been in his Bobcat qualifying on Friday.
Exactly. His Bobcat's been there all weekend long. Brian, let's take a look here. Coming down past the start-finish line, going into turn 1 now. Battle of 2 BMWs and, more importantly, Gary Hagopian in that E-Type coupe. That beautiful red E-Type. We've got Phil Ackley in his 323, and then that blue and white model, Ron Cheka, the 89 BMW M3. And I think I mentioned it was either yesterday or Friday. I love myself a BMW E30 M3.
Yes.
4 cylinders before they went to the straight 6. Custom rear end of the car, custom body panels, trunk, everything. You can't. It's very, very difficult to upgrade a standard E30 car up to a M3.
Yeah.
And just gorgeous body lines.
Yep.
And they're coming
absolutely. And you got Phil Ackley in that 323 BMW too. Actually, it's a very nice car.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually looked at that kind of up close.
Yeah.
Even on the racetrack.
On the racetrack as well.
I've seen it up close.
You saw the twin kidneys right in the mirror of your Legends car, huh?
That is it, yep. So.
And Brian, we were talking about the Coca-Cola Miata that was out in the last run group. Well, we found its spiritual twin, and it is out here today racing in our big bore group. I'm trying to pick out which one it
that may be. I think it's David Dean's.
Dean, exactly. Yeah.
I think that's David Dean's machine there.
Yeah, indeed. It's the 1969 Porsche 911 that is out there, and he says it's been it started its life off in Canada, where we know Coca-Cola tastes different, right? Actually, that's Mexico, where Coca-Cola tastes different. And he's been racing for 13 years. He's out of Catlett, Virginia. Been racing for 13 years.
Yep.
Beautiful car. A lot of really nice equipment here. Scott Bresnahan's 88 Porsche 911 as well, and also a wonderful machine that was converted to a race car back in 2013. And he's from, I don't want to say our back door here, but he's from Purcellville. Short drive out to Summit Point for him.
Right near one of my neighbors.
Yeah. He may be. He may be right down the street from you, for all you know.
Literally, yep. And who was that again?
That is Scott Bresnahan.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
With the red 88 Porsche with the blue and white stripes on the hood. Brian coming down the front straight. Let's look at this again. Here as they cross the line. This is the Hagopian Jaguar, Phil Ackley and Ron Checa in the 2 BMWs. And once again, they are fighting it out for position here. So all three drivers in different classes, Hagopian and CPV, Ackley and DPH, Checa. This is more of an IT car, but Ackley, he's been challenging for position with Hagopian the last 2 laps under braking in the 1.
Yeah, Phil able to get a little bit deeper in there, but getting a call there, I think, on Corey Barrick's 331 Ford Mustang, the one that we had a problem with earlier.
Sounds like maybe the hood clip, so maybe one hood clip not there, that the hood's flapping around a little bit.
But you talk about Phil Ackley, and in that BMW last time by going down in turn 1, had the line, but had to get out of it pretty quick because Phil's got a lot of laps around here. Phil's been an instructor around here for quite some time. Basically had to get out of it and get tucked back in line. If not, he would have ended up losing the position right behind him to Ron Checa in that 89 BMW. They're coming out of turn 10 now. Going to head down the front stretch here, past the start-finish line. And again, you still got Gary Hagopian and Phil Ackley, Ron Checa still nose to tail. And every time, Greg, when you can see Phil Ackley pull out. I'm not sure if that's to try to get air because he knows that is not the right line to take into that turn 1. So I think he could be trying to get some air. Could be that he's still tucked up underneath.
Yeah, but on the previous lap, he was right there and he stayed beside. He was beside him all the way down into the braking zone. So much like we're watching now this fight here, we've got the battle of the Porsche 914-6 there, and believe. Let me pick out which 914. Oh, that is Joe Hoover in the 59 machine there with Gilbert Grable in the 122 Mustang directly behind as they go through turn 3. We're going to see him come down the chute here momentarily, and a big group there as well. We got Keegan McGregor.
Yeah, I was going to say throw Keegan McGregor in there as well.
Skip Bryan in another BMW 325 as well, and Corey Barrick in his Mustang. I think he's right at the tail end of that group.
Yeah. So again, pretty good battles here going on. You talked about the battle, there for 9th through 11th, and then a little bit further back, probably 17 seconds back behind that is the Hoover, Grable, McGregor, and Bryan battle.
Benton in the paddock, second call to the grid for race group number 1, our Wyer Cup IMSA and TransAM reunion drivers. Please head to the grid. Race group number 1, Wyer Cup drivers, please head to the grid. It's our final sprint race of the morning.
Pick up that Joe Hoover battle along with Gilbert Grable, Keegan McGregor, Corey Barrick, and Skip Bryan. They've kind of settled out there a little bit. Looks like we got a standing yellow in turn 1, Greg. So they started to go side by side in there and really had to check up and had to get back single file.
And now they're back to
battling
fighting.
single file. Here comes the call now.
All right, and we'll try and find out what that condition is. But our leader working his last lap right now.
Good. Right behind that. He is actually right behind that battle that we've been talking about with the Hoover, Grable, and McGregor. Let's see if we can pick up that call now.
Gilbert Grable. And he's continued on. But Grable in that blue 122 Ford Mustang, the 67 Mustang, went for a bit of a wild ride there on the outside of 1.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look now here as our leader, working the last lap, and he's right in that group, Brian, as you said. Clark Orstrom coming out and up the hill, about looks like the fourth car back or so.
Looks like he I was gonna say, it looks like he checked out of it. He had a run on him and got out of it, knowing that way they could complete another lap, knowing he was there.
All right, well, he's going to cross the line, take the win. But let's take a look here, because the group that was directly ahead of him, Brian, they're still on their last lap. Orstrom, he's followed him down. I don't know if he saw the checkered flag or not.
Well, I know he saw the checkered flag, and I think they may have seen it as well. So they may not be racing anymore. It looks like they're going through turns one a little bit slower than normal. So
yeah, possibly, because I was watching the fight here.
Yeah.
Between it was actually with the red Mustang. A little bit further back with and who was it that we saw in? Oh, it was Corey Barrick, and then I think we had Joe Hoover directly ahead. We had they were directly ahead of Clark Orstrom when he crossed the line, and it looks like they got out of the throttle.
Yeah, so looks like they're going to end that day basically a lap early. They could have continued because that was they had not been lapped yet. But again, do the smart thing here because it's kind of hard to pick out. To get those checkered flags waved beforehand. We'll see.
Indeed. All right, so Michael Dubé in his Chevy Camaro, he's going to finish second, Brian. Kevin Farnham in his Trans Am Pontiac Firebird moves up into third. Doug Hagopian in his Porsche 911 will finish fourth. David Dean in his Porsche 911 will finish fifth. Scott Bresnahan will finish sixth. Nader Fortui in his Porsche 914 sixth. He will finish seventh. Chris Cozy will finish in eighth. Gary Hagopian in his Porsche 911 will finish ninth. Phil Ackley, only 3/10 back, will finish in 10th. And Ron Cheka, another 4/10 back from there, will finish just outside the top 10 in 11th. All right, before we take a quick break here, Brian, let me make another call to the grid for our next group. Attention in the paddock. Final call to the grid for race group number 1. That's the Wyer Cup. Our IMSA RS and SCCA TransAM 2.5 racers, please head to the grid. Race group number 1, please head to the grid. Your race starting in just a few moments. And again, also for those of you that are still here at the track, if you're interested in getting photos of your beautiful race cars on Summit Point Raceway this weekend, please check out Bill Stoller's photography. He's been here all weekend long. After he got out of his sports Renault during the driver's school, he immediately, within like 5 minutes, was over at turn 1 behind the lens, taking pictures of your car. Go to billstoller.com or call him at 717-372-2279, or you're going to see his photos on Facebook on the VRG pages. Also, look up Bill Stoller, BILLSTOLER on Facebook. He posts his photos there, and you can purchase some wonderful photography packages from him. All right, so let's take a quick break, Brian. We'll be back in here in just a few moments with our final race of our broadcast here from Summit Point Raceway, where you're watching the 2024 Jefferson 500, presented by the Vintage Racer Group. And welcome back to Summit Point Raceway. See, there, that time, Brian, I didn't say Virginia International Raceway. Welcome.
Finally realized where you're at.
Where I am. Got my bearings all crossed up this weekend. Welcome back, everybody, to Summit Point Raceway for our last feature race of the morning here at the Jefferson 500, presented by VRG and Summit Point Raceway, with technical assistance from the Washington, D.C. region of the SCCA, bringing us helping to bring this broadcast to you this weekend. And Brian, we've got, as I mentioned, one more race of the morning. This is the Wyer Cup. This is the SCCA TransAM 2.5 and IMSA RS reunion. These are for the small bore cars from those two series, 2.5 liters. Approximately, very limited ability to make changes to them, and a really great turnout that we've had from these machines and these drivers all weekend long. Here we're going to see drivers in Datsuns, BMWs, Opels racing here. These were run in these Pro Series from 1971 to the mid-'80s. And we also have, I think, maybe a few that ran in SCCA amateur racing in the B sedan class, which was essentially the amateur version of TransAM 2.5.
Yep.
And so yesterday, in our feature race for this group, we had taking the win. It was Steve Byrne.
Pretty much swept all weekend.
Yeah, exactly. He just walked away from the rest of the field in his Datsun 510, an early 1970 Datsun 510. Steve LeBrun finishing second in his Alfa Romeo GTV, finishing third, Sean Bullard, and Sean was running his also an Alfa GTV. They're great racing. Bob Ball out in the field as well. He finished there in fifth, with Gary Reed and Ernie Bellows 7th and 8th. As we've got the field now, Brian, looking still a little strung out here as they come up the hill. But Graham Fuller, who has been our faithful pace car driver all weekend long, brings that beautiful Lotus Esprit V8 turbo onto the pace lap.
Did Graham go from GT Light to the pace car driver?
Did I say Graham Fuller?
You did.
Oh, Graham Taylor. Sorry. Graham Fuller, national champion in GT Light this year.
Mid-Ohio.
And lives in Summit Point, by the way.
Yeah.
And there we go. Green flag is in the air, and Ralph Padgington is our starter for our final race of the morning. Brian is Bob Ball in his BMW 2002. He gets a good jump, but an even better jump from Stephen LeBrun in that Ford Escort.
And we've got a problem with Steve Byrne there. He did not take off in that number 3 machine. Either missed a shift or has a problem. He's going to go all the way to the back. That actually stacked up the entire right side of the field. So where you talked about where Steve LeBrun's going to get that run up into turn 1, now you've got Bob Ball. He's going to be right on that back bumper. But Steve Byrne, not a very good start, and he may have some some major issues in that number 3 machine.
All right, we also see got one car a bit off the pace. I think that's Dennis Pippy in the 402, the number 402 BMW 2002 here, as he's just now making it through turn 3 all by his lonesome here. But get great start, Brian, for the Ford Escort of LeBron. I mean, he looked like he was shot out of the cannon, moved from 4th all the way up into the lead as the field now coming through turn 6, and there you go, the 510 looks like he's making up a little bit of ground. Actually, that might be Gary Reed's number 16 machine that we just saw come in and out of our view there at turn 5. We'll track them as they start to come up the hill here.
Yeah, we'll have to try to find out where Steve Byrne went. I did not see him come back through. It may be because I do know that he dropped almost to the very tail end of the pack.
All right, so as they come now across the start-finish line, Stephen LeBron in his Ford Escort, then Bob Ball in the orange BMW 2002, then Sean Bullard. Bullard, you can pick out his car, his Alfa Romeo, because it's got the red nose here, and now coming across the line, Gary Reed in his Datsun 510, the 16 car, that's 4th. Then Joe Lyles, Steve Shipoff, and if we take a look here, going all the way down through the field, Brian, I see David Levinson now sitting in 14th, but I still don't see Steve Burns.
Well, I think he just turned in on pit road.
Oh, yeah, there he is right now.
Sitting there. Well, I think that's the 402 that you were talking about.
Yes.
Dennis Pippy that had a problem, but
indeed
Steve Byrne is, I think, coming just now back out.
There.
I don't know if he's going to make the turn or not. We're going to have to see if he's going back out. It looks like he is going to go back out. Actually, that's not Steve Byrne either.
That's not the 510. That's another one of our Alphas.
Yeah,
that is the 67
that's
car.
That's David LeBron.
Yeah, David LeBron leaving the pit lane now.
So I have no idea what happened to Steve Byrne, but I could have sworn that he was up there. And you know what? It may not have been Steve Byrne going out. That may have been David that had the problem.
Yeah, I was going to say, you may have been looking at David, and then obviously Joe Lyles also in the white, probably not Joe Lyles, Gary Reed in the white Datsun 510, who we now have in 4th position. That may be who we saw there. But coming across the line, and completing lap number 2, Sean Bullard in his Alfa just resets fast lap, and he was side by side for a moment there with Bob Ball as they went down and barreled into turn number 1. And now your new second place runner, Brian, is Sean Bullard. He gets around the BMW 2002.
Yeah, he made short work of Bob Ball there, going down the start-finish line, heading down into turn 1. So we'll have to see. And it looks like Sean Bullard's really going to get on the back bumper of our leader, of Stephen LeBron, coming through there. Bob Ball working his way back up. Going to try to probably, looks like may want to make that right-hand pass. Not a high percentage spot to make the pass. Had to get out of it as they come down the hill through 4 into turn 5. But that is not a position you want to be, is drivers right there coming up over that hill. You and I know that oh so well.
Yes.
You get in there too hot right there, you're going to have to either back out of it or you're going straight over that hill to the driver's right.
Exactly. All right, so we're starting to see the rest of the field, Brian, really start to stretch out here. We'll definitely try to pick up a couple more of these races as they continue on. Obviously, right at the front, our top 3, incredibly close. The battle for 4th right now between Gary Reed's Datsun 510 and Joe Lyles' BMW 2002. Also it was very tight. They're just coming out of turn 10 right now, and that has stretched out immensely as the 16 car now comes across the line and picks up, I'd say probably now almost 2 full seconds on Joe Lyles, and then about another 25 car lengths back to Stefan Shiposh, back in 6th position in his A1 Volkswagen Rabbit.
Yeah. A lot of them now, like you said, it's starting to spread out a little bit. We look at the timing and scoring here. I think the closest battle, other than our top 3, is going to be, let's see if we can pick up lives. It's going to be Stephen Shiposh and that.
Yeah, well, I was going to say now probably Brad Carroll
and
the
Don,
black, the 1600cc BMW, the black coupe, and then Don Wanigat in the red Alfa Romeo GTV. We'll try and pick them up here in just a moment, but I think they were also already stretched out by about 3 seconds. Here come our here comes that battle actually right down to the turn 5. Spencer, you be the man there as he picked them up right away. That is the battle right now. The battle right now for 7th position between Carroll and Wannegat. Carroll in the black 1600 BMW, the 1968 edition. Wannegat in the 1972 Alfa Romeo GTV. But let's do this. There we go. Let's go over to the front straight and
battle for the lead.
Battle for the lead there. Stephen LeBrun and his escort. He is now under challenge by Sean Bullard's Alpha now as they go into 1. But as they go into 1, look at this. We see where the escort has a lot more straight line speed, Brian, than Bullard, where the Alfa Romeo has been strong, is under handling. And now going into turn number 3, coming down the inside, we've got Bullard taking a look on the escort, just cannot get there, though.
Yeah, I'm going to look back here. Just so you can continue on that one. I'm looking at another battle right here that's been shaping up here, and that is the Craig Lazinski and the Nick Lane battle. That's 12th and 13th, and I tell you what, they were almost side by side last time by. They're just now coming into turn 1. They were side by side coming out of turn 10 last time by, and then they've kind of single filed out. But that, again, another close race. But you're right. It looks like Sean Bullard trying to take a unique line out of turn 1 and turn 2 and really up into turn 3.
Well, he just doesn't have the straight line speed that the escort has, and that's the major reason why. As we watch now, this is the battle you were talking about just a few moments ago. Craig Lazinski is in the orange and black BMW 2002, and then we got Nick Lane. He is in the Volkswagen Rabbit directly behind, and the Rabbit tries to take a look down the inside, and that door was closed very quickly on him, Brian.
Somebody shut off the Rabbit there. The Rabbit had a good run coming up over the hill out of 4, and they closed the cage on the Rabbit. That rascally Wabbit.
That's right.
And I'm sure that's probably what Craig Lazinski's probably saying in his helmet. You rascally Wabbit, you're not getting by me.
Well, maybe he saw the broadcast yesterday where Clark Orstrom in his BMW CSL at the last group made 2 passes under braking going into 5 there. And we decided to switch it up.
Greg, we picked up that Brad Carroll and Don Wannegat race last time by. Wannegat now has gotten by Brad Carroll as they cross the start-finish line last time by. Great run by Don Wannegat out of turn number 10. As we pick up our overall leaders now with Stephen LeBron, Sean Bullard, and Bob Ball. They went through turn 5, and it looked like Bob Ball and Sean Bullard were going to go side by side, but Bullard had the actual line to get into turn 6 and through the carousel right there. So he's going to keep Bob Ball just a little bit back at bay right now.
All right, and we can see here as our leaders are coming up on some slower traffic right now. We'll see if that plays into things at all. And talk about alternate lines, Brian, as we saw our top 3, and there you go. As we've got that Datsun 510, I believe that's David Levinson in the 127 car. He pulls over all the way drivers left to let our leaders take the apex. Now side by side, going down the front straight. It is Sean Bullard challenging for the lead. And look at LeBrun. LeBrun moves all the way over driver's right and basically holds off Bullard's charge. He first started to squeeze him, Brian, and then as he got by under braking, he came right across the nose.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Bob Ball doesn't get a good run coming out of there, because he was on the preferred line, and those 2 other drivers trying to do it, they had to get out just a little bit more.
Definitely compromise their entry and, more importantly, their exit speed because of how they went in that corner. And you can see Bob Ball, even in turn 3 here, he gets a great run out of turn 3, I think better than the 2 ahead of him.
Yeah, and when we talking about with Jim yesterday, he said, Bob's used to drifting that thing and getting it sideways as much as possible to get the max out of that car.
That's right.
That he can, and you're right, he does, and does that very, very well coming up out of turn 3. That right rear is probably almost completely gone at the end of every sprint race that Bob Ball does, because he definitely gets the max out of that right rear. Puts it to its test, I can tell you that.
Well, Brian, look, I typically race front-wheel drive cars. The only thing those rear tires do is they keep the rear end of the car off the ground. The difference is Bob Ball's driving a rear-wheel drive car.
Correct.
He actually needs that for motive power. Yeah. All right, and you can see here. So Bob Ball, I think he's probably the strongest of the three cars, that BMW, the strongest three at the bottom end of the course. But as you say, I think he's starting to drive the tires off the car, trying to keep up with these two ahead of him.
Well, it'd be interesting to talk to him after this race is over, or at some point in time. I just don't think that car has the drive off of turn 10, and that's where he seems to lose a little bit of that down the front stretch, because when he gets there through turns 2 and turns 3, he's able to pick that up a little bit because, as you talked about, he gets through turn 3 a lot better now, and then he ends up closing the gap, on Bullard and LeBron. So we'll see whether or not it is. I think that's his shortfall right there, is not getting the drive he wants out of turn 10. Some of our other cars now going through there, but again, everybody seems to, the races we were talking about before, seems to be pretty much single filed out now, and not as much other than our top 3, and they almost go 3 wide out of 9. Sean Bullard's going to block, actually, coming out underneath the bridge on Bob Ball to slow his momentum down, because Bob, again, had great run out of turn number 9. But here again, you can see it just as we showed on the screen. The drive off of 10 just isn't there now.
Yeah, what I'd like to do, Brian, because there is another race and it is tightening up quickly. This is the battle for 6th. We got Joe Lyles in the white BMW 2002. We've got the gray A1 Volkswagen Rabbit of Chapash. Then Wannigat is right there as well. All 3 of them were stacked up going into 5 the last time I looked, and they're now going to be coming through turn 10 and onto the front straight. And we have the Rabbit now stepping to the inside. He thinks he's got a good run now on the BMW of Lyles as they come down. And I'll tell you, when you have 2 cars side by side, Brian, the best draft you get is when you're that 3rd car and you're trailing. And look at the run.
What a move.
Look at the run that the Alpha of Don Wannigat caught. He's going to pass both those cars going into turn 1.
One going in, one coming out. And so now they're going to go side by side. So Lyles and Wannigat, they're going to go side by side to turn 3. We'll see. We've known here for quite some time, the outside, if you stay in that line, it will help you. They're still too wide as they come up and over the hill and going down. When we go to our turn 5 camera, we'll have to see. But I think Joe Lyles is probably going to have the preferred line coming in there unless he backs out of it. But Don Wannigat, he stayed right in it. He did not get out of it, so he's going to make that pass.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just amazing to watch how he used that draft. I told you, 2 cars side by side, huge hole in the air as they come through turn 6 now. And he's managing to hold off. He's managing to still hold off the Datsun and the Rabbit there. Great run in there from Wannigat as they now come up the hill. And, Brian, we've only got a little bit less than 3.5 minutes remaining. So likely here as our leaders are still going at it, we've probably got 2 more laps, maybe 3 left here in the books for them.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's to watch that move that he just made last time by and now see him going across the start-finish line and starting to open up, that car has gotten better every single lap. I can pull up his times over each lap.
All right, and while you're doing that, Brian, we're going to jump back for a few moments here to that battle for the lead, knowing that time is starting to run down as our leaders, they're still at it, coming through turn 6 right now with only a half a car length separating the 3. Bob Ball, who 2 laps ago had really fallen off the pace of our leader, LeBron, and then Sean Bullard running in second. They are all once again lock, nose, tail, and I think we can now see where Ball might be having his issue, Brian. It's not necessarily exit speed here at 10, that's part of it, but as they start to come up the hill out of turn 8, he loses about 2 car lengths after being on them all the way through the bottom half of the course. He picks it up under braking going into 5.
Well, I was going to say what really helps him get back to the back bumpers of them is he loses it here, but then as you mentioned earlier on, he picks that up going through turn 3 and up over the hill and down into turn 5, and pretty much from that point on all the way through the exit of 9 is where he gains, but then he loses that. So you're right, probably not getting the drive off of 9 that he wants, but he definitely picks it up here going through 3.
And Brian, we've had another one of our BMWs pull off, and that's the BMW 1600, I believe.
Machine. That's Brad Carroll.
Yeah, Brad Carroll. So it looks like his day is done. But as our leaders now coming down through coming into turn 5 under braking, the next time by will probably be the beginning of their final lap.
Yeah.
Because we've got just a touch over a minute remaining here on the clock.
Tell you what, it's going to be interesting to see, especially if they come through there, whether or not Bob Ball is going to push the issue. It's definitely getting through the Carroll.
Well, Ball tried to come underneath him going into turn 7. That might have been a bit of an advantage then for our leader in the escort there, as now we see where our second place runner, Sean Bullard, a little bit off the pace coming out of turn 8, but he manages to make it up coming into turn 10. And our drivers, as they come to the line with now 1 lap remaining, it is Sean LeBrun. He has got maybe a half a car length in his Ford Escort over the Alfa Romeo of Bullard. And once again, that Escort squeezes the Alfa going into 1, Brian.
Yep. Tell you what, when they get through the turn 1 and get out of turn 2, we're going to see they're going to come up on some lap traffic here. It's going to play a huge factor of whether or not Sean Bullard's going to be able to use Stephen LeBrun as a pick to get through there. He moves drivers left to get up through turn 3. Basically had to get on the brakes a little bit. You can see him there now as he goes through, not the optimal line for speed, but is able to make that back up. Let's see what happens down in turn 5, Greg, because I'll tell you what, it's going to be interesting with those slower cars going down through there.
All right, just a quick update. That battle for fourth that we've been watching, it is still the Datsun 510 of Reed, then Don Wannigat, and then Joe Lyles. Wannigat in the Alpha, Lyles in the 2002. Gary Reed just ran his fastest lap of the race when he needed it, and the gap has really opened up now between those racers, Brian. But our leaders now coming into turn number 8, all in a row. Let's see here, because the Alpha is so much closer than it was yesterday, but Bob Ball's challenging him. I think that might have been the death knell for Sean Bullard's run for the win as they come out of turn 10 now and onto the front straight, and going to take the win here in the Wyer Cup race. It is going to be Stephen LeBrun in his 1974 Escort RS 1600. Sean Bullard in his Alfa Romeo will finish second. Bob Ball will finish in third. Brian, 1.1 seconds separating our top 3 drivers. Gary Reed in the number 16 Datsun 510. He will, we're still waiting for Gary. We're going to see him hopefully in just a minute. I think he's coming out of turn 10 right now on to the front straight. There it is, the white with yellow nose, number 16. Gary Reed is going to finish just off the podium in 4th, and then the battle for 5th. Don Wannigat in the number 74 Alfa Romeo. He finishes in 5th. Joe Lyles in his BMW 2002, this 206 car, will finish 6th. Stephen Shiposh will finish in 7th in that gray Wabbit. And then we've got Robert Abitsky in his BMW 2002, the white, yellow, and orange machine. He comes across the line. He will finish now in 8th position. And look at the battle here, Brian. Great battle at the end for 9th with Margot Ote in her yellow 2002, 1975 BMW 2002. She will finish 9th. Colby Schindel will finish in 10th. So, Brian,
that's a way to finish.
It certainly is. And, Brian, that is our final race of our coverage of the 2024 Jefferson 500 by the Vintage Racer Group. I'm going to bring Spencer in here as well very quickly. Not gonna go on for a long diatribe here, or I guess diatribe's the wrong word, but as we wrap things up, Brian, a great weekend of racing.
I tell you what, it was spectacular, and these drivers handled themselves with such grace, not only from Friday having great weather on Friday, but to having to deal with all of the rain and the wet and the damp conditions that they did, put on one heck of a show all day yesterday and even this morning, right? To come out here, a little chillier this morning than we did, very overcast skies out here, but to put on the show that they did and have the racing that they did is just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. I think it's always fun to come out here. I've been coming here for years. You see the sun, you see the rain. Most weekends are kind of one or the other. It's always rainy, it's always sunny. So the strategies have to stay the same pretty much all weekend. But this weekend was a really a great showcase of adaptability, I think, because you had the rain, you had the dry out of this day really kind of come around in the back end to allow drivers to go from the slow tiptoeing kind of mechanics-based driving to more the let's go fast, let's do speed. Who doesn't like going to a racetrack to go fast? And it's a heck of a way to end the day.
Absolutely. And, one of the other, if there was a positive thing about yesterday, it was that it was wet in the morning and it stayed damp and then it stayed wet again in the afternoon, right? So you're not taking your car going, wow, I got to go from a rain setup to a dry setup, back to a rain setup, back to a dry setup. You're not spending that time. You could have left it all day yesterday, made that changes after the day was over yesterday afternoon to get it prepared for today. It does make it a little difficult in terms of racing, but we've talked about this many times up here in this booth. Rain is the great equalizer from top to bottom, and we definitely saw that yesterday where we saw some of the drivers in the rain. They, in turn, were able to keep up where they weren't in the dry from Friday through qualifying, where they were listed in the back of the middle of each pack for each group. That actually helped them get back up to the front. And some of them actually even challenged for race wins yesterday.
Oh, yeah. It was really exciting to see. I guess you could say it was a plethora of good racing.
That word was used 3 times.
That's our favorite word this weekend.
We used that word already. All right, guys, let's wrap things up here. A couple of folks that we want to thank. First off, want to thank the Washington, D.C. region of the Sports Car Club of America. They have provided technical assistance, allowing us to bring this broadcast to you all weekend long. So thank you to them. Also want to thank some folks from VRG. First off, I want to thank Denny Austin and also Mr. Del Vecchio, who came up here, Frank Del Vecchio, who came up and joined us in the announce booth to help us with a couple of our races here this weekend. Thank you to you all. I want to thank Steve and Tracy Hyatt, our stewarding and race control crew here at VRG. I want to thank Jeffrey Hutzelman, working timing and scoring, who's provided tremendous assistance to this broadcast. Also want to thank Jim Karamanis, our race director here this weekend for VRG. He has run a very, very smooth event. We want to thank him and everybody else from VRG, Vintage Racer Group, for having us here this weekend. So for Spencer Gaynor, for Brian Donati, I'm Greg Ginsburg. Thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you soon.